Good evening and welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world, wherever you're watching this. We are back for another critique. As always, I'm joined by my colleague and co-host of the Gin and Tonic Show, Stop Spamming. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hello, ladies, gents, and others. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to another critique video.
Yeah, so this one I picked up. I happened to see it. Somebody else, I think, was talking about it, or it popped up in my feed. It's 2 years old, but still quite a good one, in the sense of it's got James SC. He describes himself as agnostic. He's probably a local atheist, but maybe a global agnostic or something like that. In other words, he's agnostic to some gods. I presume, though, that he would believe, the theistic gods, and particularly the Islamic gods. So in that case, you might be termed a local atheist, but certainly describes himself as an agnostic. And he's in conversation with one of our favorite Dawa apologists, Darren Hamza, Redbeard from Speaker's Corner. So we're going to go through this one, and he's going to bring up certainly one of my favorite critiques of the Qur'an, which is a knockdown error, but we won't even get to it in part one. That's how long they avoid dealing with that particular critique in the Qur'an. So it will only happen in part two. He will try to, but he will get sidestepped and talked over a little bit and all that sort of stuff that we're used to. So what we'll do is Stops will be running it. So I'll just say stop, stops, or just stop once. And we'll comment as we go along, see how far we get tonight, and we'll pick it up again, whenever Stops and I are available. Anything you want to say? Have you had a look yet, Stops, or you're going to go into it without looking and you're just going to pick it up off the cuff?
No, just pick it up. The only thing is you need to stop moving because you're clicking. And what I noticed in the last one is that it was very soft. So if this is still the case today, you need to let me know so I can just jack it up.
Oh, you mean the audio?
Yes.
From the video. Okay.
No. From my microphone.
You sounding fine to me. Now I'll let you know if you're sounding.
Okay, because the last time I listened to something, and I thought you could barely hear me. I was like,
there was a time you weren't. I think that was one of the other streams, but then you rectified it. But you're coming through loud and clear. I'll let you know the moment I hear you're not great, or indeed the video itself. So hopefully we're all good. I'm coming through clearly. I'll adjust because it is a plug-in mic. I've got the Bluetooth, but as soon as you're on StreamYard on a Apple phone with AirPods in your ears, there's sometimes a connection problem. So I'm using a wired one, but I'll attempt to let it bounce around too much if I can. So with that said, shall we get into it? Good evening to everybody.
I saw one of the comments, by the way, where they said that James SC is actually a Christian. And this is quite funny. But it's amazing the brain contortions that people go to, just to avoid just listening to arguments and having to think about something that somebody else is saying. They will just just sort of reject everything what somebody's saying. Just like Hamza said, yeah, you're a hater, you're an Islamophobe, and therefore I cannot take anything that you are saying seriously, and therefore I'm not going to listen to you. It doesn't matter how much sense you make. So
yeah, well, that's obviously a fallacy in reason, right? Whether you hate something doesn't necessarily mean what you're saying is untrue. So that would be it's like an appeal to emotion or that sort of thing, but it's definitely a fallacy. So
hello, people from the chat or in the chat or whatever. I always wonder, how does this work? What are you doing? Are you watching something? Are you knitting? What are you doing when suddenly something goes ding, 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 ding? Speakers Corner UK is doing something. I always
I'm not sure
how this works. So.
Yeah, I've got earplug. I've got wired headphones, and obviously there's the little. Or maybe I'll just hold it and see if that helps. So if I do it like this, do you hear anything?
Yeah, that helps. That's a lot clear. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll do it like this. Hold this near my mouth. I've now got the on the the white earphones, your little mic on the cable itself. So I'll hold that closer to my mouth and also away from my body. So hopefully,
super.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
All right, I'm going to leave it on this format because there's no cards or cues or text or anything. It's just sheer audio. All right, and if somebody in the chat wants to say something, because we've got how many 8,260 people now, just type one enter, then we'll stop. Okay.
If only that's just another point. You see the Muslims come on and talk about nothing in particular, and they get over 100 viewers. It's crazy. And here we are trying to do intellectual breakdown of some of the fallacies that are invoked by some of the Muslims, and of course you don't get near that amount, and that probably says a lot, right? So it is what it is.
Right.
Let's understand one thing.
You have every.
Let's understand one thing.
Just know that the facts.
Understand one thing, and I think you won't go wrong if you understand this one point. My standard of what happened is God. I don't care what historians say. Halas. All right.
Okay, right off the bat, you can hear that this is a bigot. He's not interested. He will ignore everything that goes against his concept of a God. He doesn't care what historians say. He doesn't care what reality says. It's his God or nothing. And that's it. So, it's quite strange how these people work.
But also, not only that, he just said, though, stops, that he doesn't care what historians said. Well, how the hell does he think the Quran came about? It's supposedly an historical account, or it was brought to antiquity in a historical way. So maybe he's trying to say, oh, well, if there's historians that disagree with the Quran or say something else, that's what I'm going to ignore. But he can't ignore history, otherwise it would be a Muslim. So again, obviously that's just, maybe he's just misspeaking, or it's a general comment. But immediately I'm going, hang on a minute, you've got to accept history if you want to accept the Quran.
So what you have to do is show that what I believe is from God isn't from God. And then you've got a choice. Then you've got a chance.
Stop there again. Okay, James is coming in now. He's going to step in. He said, that's not hard. But of course, this is a shifting of the burden, right? It's a case of, hey, if you believe a God, tell us why you believe. What exactly, which God specifically, and why do you believe it? But of course, his move now, and we've seen it when I've had that discussion and you have, and so forth, is to try and go, well, you coming with a claim. Well, yes, we are, but it's in response to your one. And so if you're in the park saying, hey, I'm a Muslim and I think I've got the truth, well, then tell us why. But I can come and say to you, okay, I don't believe you, but I've got to hear. Now we know what he's going to say, but if I didn't know something, I need to know what they believe and why before I can either agree or disagree. And so the person who's saying that, I don't walk into Speaker's Court and say, hey, I'm an atheist. Hey, everybody, come here. I'm going to tell you why atheism is correct. I mean, if it comes up in conversation, I'll do that. But I'm going there because the religious people are telling us that their beliefs are correct. So they start with that position. So they need to tell us what belief and why.
Bismillah. We have a contender. How you doing, my friend?
You haven't met. This is the first time they meet, by the way. This is the first time they meet. So Hamza says he has a contender. Little does he know that he will probably, in the future, he's obviously not a mind reader, but he probably won't engage with James again and call him his laptop and walk away from him. So he thinks he's a contender. Little does he know that he's in over his head, and we will expose that as we go through.
What's your name?
How you doing, James? I'm Darren.
Hi, Darren. You're finished now. I feel if you did indeed have word from the creator of the universe who knew everything, then that would be good. If that was genuinely from the creator of the universe who knew everything, then that would be a better source of historical evidence than a scripture or other historical evidence. Okay. So what good evidence do you have that the Quran is from?
Perfect. That's exactly what Rob just said, and this is the only way, the precise, the best way to handle this. Just to not accept the burden of proof. We say, okay, why are you telling us this? Perfect.
Okay. Do you believe in a creator, first of all?
I'm agnostic. I don't know where.
Did I hear Rob say, welcome to the Gin and Tonic Show? No. Did you say that?
No, I said, welcome to Speaker's Corner, pretty sure.
I don't even realize. Welcome to Speaker's Corner UK.
Pretty sure I said that. We'll have to rewind and see.
As a creator.
Right, so I believe in a creator.
Okay.
So me believing in someone's a messenger of that creator is a bit less, for him, it's understandable. For you, I don't know if you get that or not.
He's agnostic.
No. If I say to you, a messenger of the creator, you haven't got a problem with that, have you? Do you have a problem with the messenger of the creator?
I'm doubtful whether the messenger would have sent a creator. I mean,
okay, just stop there a moment. Stop there a moment. Okay, so you've got to be a bit careful here, because I think he's going to shift the burden here again. And so when he says, have you got a problem with it? My sort of response at this point would be, I can understand the concept. The concept in and of itself, depending on what you further say, is incoherent. So understand the concept. If that's what you're asking me, sure. Do I accept it? Well, obviously, as an agnostic or an atheist, you're not going to accept. You're either going to be undecided, or you're going to disbelieve or lack of belief, depending on what you believe. But again, you've got to be quite strong and go, okay, that's what I've said. Now, can you demonstrate your particular one? Not some generic version, your particular one.
So, all right. So, if there's because we have to go. You've got no right to talk about religion right now. At the moment, I'm sorry.
No, he has every right to talk about religion.
No, you haven't, because you don't believe in a creator. Or
What is this?
Yeah, he doesn't
I need to be a rapist to speak about rape? Do I need to be an adulterer to speak about adultery? Do I need? This is crazy.
Okay, but the other, and let's point this out now, and I'm sure if he ever watches this or if I ever speak to him again, I'll try and overcome this, right? This is just a basic error in thinking. And you've highlighted it quite well there as well. You don't have to accept God, as in like believe that it exists, to step into somebody's view and go, okay, tell me about your view. Let me critique that view, either internally or externally. An internal critique is you go into the view and see whether it makes sense within their paradigm. An external critique is, okay, I'm accepting some of your presuppositions, but I'm going to critique it externally. So he's obviously mistaken. And if I get to speak to him about it, I think in his head, what he's probably thinking is, okay, you've got to accept some sort of generic God first, then we'll get to my one, because that's the way their script works, right? You've got to go with, here's the arguments for a generic one, right? Once you accept that, or once that's more likely, I'm going to take you to the Qur'an as opposed to the Bible or whatever. So that he's thinking most probably when he's speaking this, but it isn't actually the case.
Yeah, because then he would have to be a god before you can, even speak about a god.
Yeah, you just have to critique a worldview. You just have to ask, hey, what do you believe? Let's see whether it makes sense. And now you can give me the reasons. And obviously, I'm going to see whether that's reasonable, or I can step into your worldview firstly to see if there's any contradiction. Otherwise, I'm going to step out and go, is that reasonable to me? I don't need to believe in the God first.
I think there might be a creator.
There might be a creator.
I'm just not certain about
it. Okay. All right, I'll explain what I believe, and then you can show me the illogic in what I believe, yeah?
Okay.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that sounds.
You can show me how maybe what I believe is illogical, and you can find the little... Hold. There's a new contender, man. This is Royal Rumble, yeah? All right. Yeah. Okay. Big boy's playing now. No, I'm joking.
Remember what the topic is that we left off on? He wants to argue on that, right?
That's fine. Alhamdulillah. I'm going nowhere, mate. All right, anyway. So, why do I believe the Quran is from my creator?
That was not the topic. He said, I'm going to explain to you why I believe there's a creator. Now he's saying, I'm going to tell you why the Quran is from a creator. So he's just changed the topic.
But actually, in a sense, Stops, for this particular discussion, this kind of works out well, because James is going to critique the Quran anyway. So going with, hey, the cosmological, teleological, whatever. But you're right. There was a subtle shift there in what he said originally, or what James's original point was, to this one. But it actually works out well for James. I'm going to do that in future probably myself, because I'm tired of the generic ones. We know that doesn't stack up as more reasonable than not. So exactly. I want to go straight to the Quran, and I think you do as well, because that's where we can really untangle things. The other ones, it's either way. There's still some level of doubt that you can throw into the generic arguments. Once you get down to the specific ones, much harder for them to defend.
That's the first thing you need to understand. Why do I do that? Why do you think I believe that?
The best evidence I've found for that Muslims have for believing that the Quran is from the Creator is that there are like one or two prophecies, like saying, the Romans will be victorious in 3 to 9 years. Like a couple of,
stop it again there. What's happened there? Huh?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Shifted a bit. If you allow, so this is for anybody watching, right? And it's subtle, it happens a lot, and it's easy to fall into the trap. And it's easy for us to critique it, and sometimes I might do that as well, especially if you think you've got good reasons for saying it. Okay. Hang on one sec, stop. And that is, don't allow to tag a question on the end unless you have finished your line of inquiry. Because James asked him, he said, why do you think? He turned it around with a question that I'm very finely tuned, because there's a couple of people on the internet that are infamous for doing this. And so I'm finely tuned to that. And James has allowed that to happen. So he's now giving a reason why he thinks Hamza is that. And rather, instead of saying, hey, you tell me, rather than ask me, you tell me. Keep it on them.
That's the best evidence I've found.
Okay. That's not the reason why I believe it's from a creator.
Okay.
Yes, a complete waste of time. So asking you just like a red herring.
I believe the Quran is from a creator because the one who brought the Quran.
Well, another thing I need to mention why he's doing that is he's not out for for honest or intellectual dialogue or something. He's just trying to show people up. He's trying to get that gotcha moment. He's trying to show that his opponent is in some way inferior. And this is what he wants to do. So now he's actually done that. He said, okay, you tell me why. Okay, you have failed because I don't believe what you think that I believe. So you've already got one minus point there. So he's already, in his mind anyway, for me, this I ignore this. But a lot of Muslims, you see, Darren just went and showed this atheist that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And that's all that he's trying to do.
It's a good point, right? He's made, like, it's not even a small point. It's a trivial point. In fact, James, unfortunately, there answered the question when he was on the line of inquiry, and you're quite right, because Darren's whole thing is no, right? That's the whole thing. And not only is he want to critique people, but it's what we call, or what I used to call in a version of psychology, mismatches. Somebody that will argue every point with you, virtually every point, and you'll hear it all the time with him. No, right? That's the standard response to almost anything. So that's the thing you've got to be wary of, and see if you can actually get agreement, because it throws a mismatcher out. Hey, would you agree with me X or Y or whatever the case is? Basic stuff that he couldn't disagree with. Get that mindset going. Otherwise, you're starting off on the bat with no. And there was a perfect example, as you pointed out.
It was from the Creator.
Okay, and why? Okay, so why do you think that he was a messenger from God?
Right, because of his claim, isn't it? So, do you accept that if a man claims to be a messenger of the Creator, then there's 4 variables that could be the option? So he could be lying about this claim, making it up, pretending to be a messenger of God. He can be deceived, where a devil imitates an angel and convinces him he's speaking to an angel, where in fact he's speaking to the devil, and everything he brings, which he thought was from God, is from the devil. You have delusional and crazy, mad, that he's got no faculty, that he's having visions of angels, and he thinks that he's always telling the truth.
Okay, I think there's also, give me another one. There's aren't kind of clear-cut categories.
Give me another category.
Because someone could be, some people can, like cult leaders, for example, they start off like with a kind of a deception, like a cult leader, but then they kind of amp themselves up, and they kind of hear people saying, "Oh, our leader, what should we do?" That they start kind of believing their own hype. So I think, like, you can.
So what?
There's also like there's in the first 3.
Is that not a lie?
In the first 3 categories.
No, here's what you.
It's a lie, but then you can also forget that you're lying.
James.
Stop
this revelation.
Okay, so if anybody speaks to Darren, we've got to stop this immediately, right? This whole scripty thing. All we need to say is, hey, the one that I think is most likely, this would be for me, everybody else can have their own view on this, is that he's mistaken. That's the only thing that I'm going to put to you, right? I don't care about the rest. I'm saying that he's mistaken, because if it was true, I would have to believe it. So I think he's mistaken. So we don't have to go down their line of elimination with other red herrings that I'm not here to defend, and that you think are much more easy to defend from your point of view. I'm saying that he's mistaken. When I look at on whatever the case is, that's it. But again, of course, we're all falling into the thing of, James should have asked him, why do you think so? You've told me 4 categories. What I want to know is, what's the best reason for you believing he authored the Quran and that it was from God? Because again, at the end, you heard him ask the question. What do you think? What do you, of these 4, what do you think? Or do you think this? There's a question tagged on at the end.
The other thing I would always do is ask, well, keep this like high level. Don't say there are other options, but always ask, what would happen to your line of reasoning if there were other options? Would you accept them? Just to try and get him to think about this and say, well, what do you mean? Are there other options? And then you just ask. You don't volunteer them. You just say, I'm just asking, what if? Of course, there are others. There are if he's a legend, he never existed. There's another option. So there are other options, but always try and tickle this out and say, but what would your reaction be if? Just to get them thinking first.
I think the only concern I might have with that, which I think is valid, because you get them thinking outside of the script, right? So in that sense, it's good. Now, for somebody like this, they might not have, they can't think of anything else. So they're boxed into these 4 things. And if you say, hey, what would it be like? The immediate question, if I put myself in this mindset, is, okay, well, you tell me what else there could be. I don't think there is anything else. So you, James or Rob, tell me what there is. And now you're in the position of having to say that, because you've kind of opened the door to allow it. So in one sense, it's good. but in another, it just allows him to say, well, I don't think there are. What else are there? Your claim is that there could be something else, or you're inferring, or you're suggesting something else. What might that be? And now you have to give something up.
I'm just asking, what would happen, or would you be available to even entertain the thought?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose he would just say, yes, I am. What might that be? Right. So he can just keep
that's cool.
throwing it back on you, right?
But then he's already off, and that is the point that you need to make, that there are other options to make him look as though he hasn't considered everything. It's the impression that you are giving.
23 years.
Yeah, 23 years, yeah.
So we either knew, and the revelation kept coming over 23 years.
Question: where did you get this from? Why 23 years? Where do you get this information? Why? How certain are you? What information are we talking about? You need to jump in all the time and question every single thing they're asking.
So he's either making it up every time he's having a revelation, or he's not.
I think he's mostly making it up.
Oh, okay. Now you tell me what you know about Muhammad to make that claim.
Okay, so
no.
Same thing that happened with Ray. Same thing that happened with Ray. Now it's James having to defend it, right?
Yeah.
for example, like, do you accept Sahih Hadiths as kind of authentic and trustworthy reports about what Muhammad did and said?
Tell me his character pre-Islam.
You see, he didn't answer the question. Now, James is different to Ray. Right? James knows some of these things. Ray obviously is starting out and he's learning, and obviously we hope he does that and we can speak to him at some point. But James knows a lot more. So James is actually in a much stronger position than Ray. Compare the two of them, right?
Should be. Yeah.
Correct, should be. But you notice he asked him a question there and he just didn't answer that question. So again, when you're with somebody like this, right, it's all for the cameras. This is a show, you heard it earlier, step into the ring as a challenger. So this for him is like an intellectual battle, and I use that word very sparingly, but this is a battle of wits. It's not a battle to let's see if we can find out what is true or likely to be true. I need to show that I'm the lion, right? He talked about it the other day. I happened to listen in for a short while. He chose the word Hamza because it's a lion in action or whatever the term was, which is why, and that's the way he sees himself, right? And so he's got to project that persona in Speaker's Corner in particular. One is to steamroll people, another is to talk and incessantly interrupt and basically control the conversation. And so I think he just didn't answer James's question. This is where you need an interlocutor, and James is much better probably than he was at this stage. And I'm not saying he's bad now, but there's things we can all learn. I've learned, you've learned, everybody's learned over time, right? You've got to stick to the question, laser focus on that question. If you don't hear an answer to the question, whatever else is said, you just ignore. I'm going to repeat the question. Maybe you didn't hear me. Can you answer this question? Whatever the case is, and you keep that up. Otherwise, exactly what happens now will happen.
Well, can you? I'm about to tell you reasons for why I think Muhammad isn't a messenger of God.
Okay, what I'm not going to do right now. What I'm not going to do right now. I'm not really going to keep asking why what your source is. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do every single hadith.
Why not?
Because I just want to understand what your broad view is. That's all.
Okay, so what's my broad view of Muhammad?
Here's what's happening. You hear that? He's controlling the conversation. He's not going to do X, Y, and Z. No. As long as you acquiesce to that, he's in control. And that's the last thing you want. If he's bringing the claims, the person that asks questions is in control of the conversation. That's always important. If you listen to police interviews, if you listen to psychologists, anybody where they're asking the questions, they're in control. The moment you give that up, if you want to give it up and you want to defend your position, but he came in here saying, and James said, hey, why do you think Muhammad is, or he said, I'm going to tell you why I think, Muhammad is the prophet, or that the Qur'an was authored by God, or whatever the case may be. So you've got to keep him on that. And if he's going to set the tone, then you either accept that, in which case he's in control of how the conversation goes, which unfortunately James allowed a little bit of, or you don't do that. But then you can make it very clear that he doesn't actually want to defend the claims. And here are some of the things that, because you're the person asking these questions, and he's the one that goes there. And if he doesn't want to, then it's a case of he's not wanting to defend his. And he's got to defend it in the way he wants, because then he can do it in an easy way that makes him look good, and he doesn't have to answer any of the hard questions. And unfortunately, we won't get to it in part one. In part two comes when James does ask the hard questions. You see that he's totally unable. And notice as well when that happens in the next part, how he responds to it, right? Makes fun of it all. So, yeah.
A liar?
I'm not entirely sure.
A liar?
Pre-Islam.
A liar?
Yeah.
A liar. Give me one evidence in his whole history where he lied.
Well, for example, Surah at Tarim, like book 66 of the Quran, seems to be like extremely convenient. Like he seems to a kind of unbiased party. It seems as though he's claiming to have a like. Is everyone familiar with Surah At-Tarim, book 66? Okay, so this is a kind of verse of the Quran. I'll read this out now. So this is like one source of that makes Muhammad seem suspicious, I'd say.
No, I didn't ask that question, did I? When he was known to lie, where he's been found out as being a liar.
Yeah, this is the problem.
It is a bit difficult, yeah, because you always take the view that he's just mistaken. He heard a voice and he thought it was true, in which case you can't prove that he was a liar, unless there was some way to show his intent, which is the word we used in one of the previous critiques. So the best you could do here is suggest that he heard a voice, or he heard this in his head and he really believed it and he said it, and it happened to be a coincidence. That's probably the best you could get.
The problem is that you have like Muhammad-friendly narrations, all these fairy tales in the hadiths. They're all geared towards Muhammad. What you would have to do is you would have to show that he had a contract, a peace treaty with a specific tribe, which he broke. So this is the only thing that, to my mind, you can bring up here, because all the other things are not things where they say he lied, he lied, he lied. No. But the thing is, I would turn it around. Why would you say that he is like the trustworthy? These are just hadith. This is just Muhammad saying about himself that he is the trustworthy. So you can't take that. I don't know where he gets it from. I would question his sources, why he is of the opinion that Muhammad is X. What do you know about the character? The Quran doesn't mention Muhammad or anything about Muhammad at all. So the only thing that you have is the Sunnah. And in the Sunnah, there's a lot of things where Muhammad lied. But you have to be extremely well-versed to be able to pull this, in Speaker's Corner without any kind of research capabilities here.
And so also, I agree with you. So that, but also you'll notice Hamza will never bring up evidence. He will assert things with a level of, as Sam Harris says, not specifically about him, but people in general, with a level of certainty that often passes, what's the term? It's not certainty. It's a level of sincerity. A level of certainty that often passes for sincerity. In other words, he'll do it actually believing the stuff, but never actually demonstrating. We've seen that online. We've seen it here. Have you ever seen him go to a book or quote anything? I can't think of a single time he's done it. But he'll shout it loudly and make these claims, as you quite rightly point out. So when you ask him, where is this? But then all he'll do, which is, again, the sort of thing, say, it's obviously it's in the Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah, right? He'll just make a vague claim. So then you have to, like you would stop, you'd press it and say, well, show me exactly where it is. And at that point, of course, then he'd have to invoke a tactic, because he's not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, then he would be lost, yeah.
Give me an example.
Like, this is something where I think there's good reason to believe that he was lying.
I didn't ask that, did I? I said, give me evidence of it.
But how can you prove, for certain, any...
Okay, so there we go.
He had many enemies.
Okay, when he says, give me evidence or prove it, right? Which is what I did. Do you remember I did it on the DUF Dawa? What was his response? It was a rambling response. He never actually gave me anything. The moment you hear somebody, especially like this, say, give me evidence or prove it, the very first question before you open your mouth to say another thing is, what do you consider proof or evidence? He must lay it out, because otherwise he's going to deny it. Otherwise he's going to go, no, I want evidence. No, I want proof. Whatever you say, like he's just done now, he's not going to accept it. So you have to get that clear first, and you cannot move on until you get that. Otherwise, he's just going to deny everything. That's not proof. That's not evidence. But I want evidence. I want proof. No. What is that? I tried it as well, and he dodged it. But then there were other people on. But if it was a one-on-one, the conversation would not proceed until I get a clear idea of what proof or evidence looks like, so that I can then present something that he can't say, no, that's proof or evidence. All he could say is, well, I'm not convinced. But at the moment, he can dodge that.
And there's another thing that I just remember. Muhammad was having sex with the slave girl, Maria, the Copt. And his wife comes in and says, listen, it's my night, and send this girl home. And he says, okay, come back in 10 minutes or half an hour or something. And she leaves, and he continues having sex with her. And then the wife comes back after half an hour, and he did not leave. He did not tell the Maria, the Copt girl, to leave, but he continued with her, and he sent his wife away again. So he lied, telling her, come back in half an hour and I'll be ready for you. No, he wasn't.
Now, where is that stop? So at some point, not now, obviously, unless you've got it available, but maybe send that to me, because that is an example, right? That is a lie, right? If you say go away and come back in half an hour, intention that you've gone off, or if he actually explicitly says, and I will send her away, then she comes back and he hasn't sent her away, yes, that would be a lie.
Well, that's a well-known story, because this leads up to what James was referring to in the Quran in chapter 66, where the Quran actually protects Muhammad and says the wives are ungrateful, and if Muhammad wants to have sex with whoever he wants, he can. So you wives need to shut up and let him do whatever he wants to do. So this is the reaction you will find in the Quran. Whether this is the scene or whether they made it up afterwards, we don't know. But this is the reference. This is why this is such a well-known story in the Sunnah. So,
yes, I've heard it. I just don't know what the reference is. We've got some guys in there that are quite knowledgeable, wiser, and thinking clearly, and so on. Maybe you guys could post the reference if you're aware of where that comes from. Stops. I mean, if it's Hadith or Sunnah or Sirah, maybe let us know. But otherwise, one of the guys I'm listening would be able to bring us the reference for that, because that would be.
Muhammad lied. He asked the man where a tribe was that he was battling. The man asked Muhammad where he was from, and he said water. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right. I don't know that one. But there are other instances. It doesn't matter. There's a lot. I mean, to ask somebody where did he lie is actually quite stupid, because if I think about it a little bit, I can come up with lots of examples.
I think the main thing is, though, in order for you to bring that up, there needs to be a qualifying question here. Do you accept the surah or the sunnah or the hadiths, sahih hadiths? Because as long as they say yes, you can bring it. Now they have to dance. But if you don't ask that question, then they can dance around that. So, well, I don't accept that. That might be weak, or I have to look at that, or they can sidestep it in some way. So often with these sort of guys, you've got to get the clarification first, so they can't dodge it as easily. They can still dodge it, dishonestly, but then it's much more open if you've clarified up front what they accept as evidence and which specific things.
Yeah. But if you ever asked, Weiser's just brought up another example. This is also correct, because he saw his daughter-in-law half naked or in a state of disarray or something, and he immediately had the hots for her. And then he told his son, you really got a sexy wife there. And he said, do you want to marry her? And he said, no, don't worry about it. No, I was just mentioning this by the by. And then he divorced her and then said, listen, she is now available for you. And then he went and married her. So this was also a lie.
Yeah, I think that one's not quite the same, though. Again, I'm just thinking about it from a Muslim point of view. They can just say he changed his mind. That's much harder to show intent. I think the other one.
That's true.
Yeah, I think the one where he said, "No way, now I'll get rid of her." Then the wife comes back and she's still there. That's much more clear cut. I mean, I think you could infer that, especially if you've got other behavior that's like that. You could infer it to a jury, but the Muslim say, "Well, no, he just changed his mind, right? He didn't want to marry her at that stage, and then he did after she was divorced. What's wrong with that? No, he didn't lie." And I think they could walk away with that.
Yeah. Okay, but there are examples. So
I'm sure we can find some other, stronger ones.
You have many enemies. So show me his enemies saying he lied. Show me anything.
Like, didn't some of the kind of minstrels and poets that for example, he had this uncle who he hit.
Again, I don't like this line of questioning, and I wouldn't even attempt to answer. I would say, so what? If he didn't lie, what does that prove? What does that show you? What if he was reliable and trustworthy and never lied? What does it tell you? How does that in any way support your case that there's a God, just because there are stories about Muhammad calling him trustworthy?
Okay, so his response is, well, I'm gonna knock down straw men that I've created, so that the only option left is that whatever it must be true. So that's the intention here. He's got these 4 options. He's going to knock down at least 2 of them are straw men, because other people won't bring up. I would never bring that up. And the third one or the fourth one, which he doesn't mention, the mistaken one, that one you're not going to be able to knock down. So that's the point, right? Knock all these down. People are listening, go, wow. And the perception is that the only option, quote unquote, in inverted commas, is that he's telling the truth. That's the whole point here. And if you're telling the
Exactly.
truth,
That's why I would not go there.
But then they want to make a claim, of course, which is they can't. It's a non-sequitur. But if he told the truth about mundane or everyday things, then there's no reason to believe he didn't tell the truth about extraordinary things. And of course, that doesn't follow. That's a complete non-sequitur. It's a logical fallacy. But again, people who are listening aren't tuned into that, won't see the fallacy there, and they will take the inference that then he's more likely to have told the truth about the extraordinary claims as well.
Well, the thing is, he's pushing James into going into evidence, into textual evidence where he has never ever brought up anything, and this needs to.
And James could do that, right? If he was prepared for it and he had it ready, he could do it. But asking the cuff in his corner, not so easy, because he came there asking Hamza to tell him why his God is the author of the Quran, or why God is the prophet and the author of the Quran, and his God exists essentially.
Who says he's making it up. That's claiming that he's lying, isn't it? But I don't think that's...
All right. So, no, they said, we know he's illiterate. We know he's illiterate.
Okay, where do you get this from? How can you say we know? You know from where? Where do you get this knowledge from? How certain are you? What is the level of reliability of your source? What is your source? These are the questions that we need to ask every single time.
So where's he getting these words from? And they sent their poet.
You can still speak,
James,
even if you don't know the written language.
James, we listen. You want to learn something today?
Yeah.
Okay. The enemies of Islam, when they heard this Qur'an, they were shocked. Where's he getting these words from?
No, they were not shocked. They were laughing. What are you talking about?
We know he's illiterate. We've known him all his life.
Being illiterate doesn't mean you can't speak verbal poetry.
Okay. What the poetry he's coming out with is blowing away every poetry of the time in Arabia.
Where did you get this from?
That's a kind of subjective standard.
Oh, no. According to who? The 5 greatest poets that ever lived were living in this time around Mecca.
No, they were not. This is bullshit. He's making it up. These are fabrications. Yes. I don't know. Why doesn't he... He should hold his feet to the fire now and say, okay, who, when, where did you get this from? When did he live? What do you mean Mecca didn't even exist at the time? What are you talking about? God.
Yeah, but he relies on this steamrolling, bulleting style of just making the claims with certainty that the other person may think, and I'm sure James doesn't, but oftentimes we'll go, okay, you know what he's talking about, right? That's another one of the say it with certainty, even if you can't demonstrate it, and just say whatever you say. But the more certain you are, certainty often wins. If there's any doubt, the person who's more certain looks to be the winner. Or it doesn't mean that actually wins, but it sounds like it's more likely that he's true. And that's one of the tactics here, right? As you say, he's saying with certainty, and anybody who didn't look would go, wow, this guy knows a lot. But as you rightly pointed out, he's making these claims and can't demonstrate them. And if he was speaking to you, you'd ask these questions and you'd bring the counter evidence. And now what would he do? But that's why the speaker's corner is better for him, because he can make these things in live and he's not challenged by, at least not at the stage.
And not even his fellow Muslims are stopping him. I mean, they know he is lying. Why
they don't stop.
Him? Why don't they step in and say, Hamza, whoa, you can't say this. We don't really know this. So,
I don't think they do know it. I think they've probably heard the same stories he's heard, and they're all repeating the same thing, so they all think it's true.
What was their response to this Qur'an? What did they say it is?
But maybe they said it was poetry. But
No. Listen, I'm not interested in your guessing answers. You either know or you don't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right, you don't know. So you're making these claims and you don't know the facts.
Well, no, I know other facts that's clearly suggest.
Okay, well, let's go here.
The Quran isn't from God, because there are several other reasons that the Quran isn't from God.
Okay,
you want the kind of course of the conversation to go in a very particular path.
It's going in a particular path. James,
when you ask me a question and I give you an answer, you're like, oh no, answer it in this way if you don't mind.
James.
And that is a good point. This is exactly the thing. He doesn't accept the answer. If I would now go and say, well, people like Al-Razi, for example, were laughing about this. He was making fun of this book. He was making fun of Muhammad. He said he's an incompetent, none of this really exists. And he laughed about this challenge, the surah like it and things like that. But as soon as you bring this up, he immediately diverts and says, no, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about these other things. So he only steers the conversation in one direction, and that is where it is positive for him where the other person is looking silly that he doesn't know these things with certainty. That's where he's going all the time. If you come with any kind of factual response, he will not allow this and divert. This is frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's obviously
James,
controlling the
I just wanted to answer
conversation.
my question.
Yeah, it's
but
controlling. I
only
want you to
allowing
answer my
one
question,
direction.
right? Yeah, I want you to answer my question when it was the other way around. I hope I get to speak to him again, and I'm going to do a one-on-one, and then we'll see. Hopefully, I can give a reasonable example of how to deal with the guy. Because if you don't take the initiative, you don't control it, keep laser focused, then the tables get turned here. When the claim is demonstrate what you believe and why.
Yeah, but then he's going to turn around. Ah, you're an Islamophobe and hater. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, well, then he's completely exposed, and that's fine.
Yeah.
At least to anybody who's thinking clearly. I mean, if he's got gullible viewers, there's nothing we can do with the gullible or the ignorant. We can only hope in some way that they sort of shake themselves out of it. But I'm not targeting those people anyway. My target is the people who are actually thinking, okay, let me look at. I've never heard that before. Whatever the case is, right? There's some level of they want to find out the truth, and then they're not dogmatically claiming that they already have the truth, and there's no possibility that could be wrong.
Right, and unfortunately for you, this conversation is like a river, and it's going to the waterfall for you. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah, you might think it's haphazard. It's all organised, so don't worry about it. All right.
Only in your own mind, buddy.
Yeah, but I've heard Islam apologists do this a lot. Why are you so nervous? Why are you shaking? Why are you like insinuating that there is something like that, even when there is not? I can see that you're sweating. I'm not surprised. You know, these things are trivial, but they are little emotional things which are showing and are supposed to demonstrate your own strength and the weakness of the other guy, even if they are non-existent and just fabricated.
And again, know why they're doing this, right? They're appealing to the gullible and the ignorant, and those sort of, throwaway comments appeal to those whose brains are not switched on, who are focused on the content. They're focused on the performance. And as soon as you focus on the performance, they can speak complete gibberish and you won't even remember it. When they've tested how people communicate, believe it or not, for most people, words take up 7% of the communication, especially face-to-face like this. People go away. If you had to ask a Muslim who watched a video or was there, what was it that was said that was so good? That all they'll say to you is, well, Hamza, he schooled us. They won't know a single,
exactly.
and it's the same thing, right? When I asked them, what was it that Sapua supposedly schooled me on? They can't say a word. All that happened was they saw somebody who seemed to know what they thought what they were talking about, and they seemed to look like they were having the upper hand, but they said nothing of value in the actual conversation. But that appeals to those sort of people. For you and I and others who are watching, we're focused on where my ear, and I'm sure yours, is fine-tuned to what is the content, what is being said that is in any way remotely looks like it could be substantial that we can have a discussion on. Not these throwaway comments, the emotional appeals, and this whole bravado. This for schoolboy tactics, and we all know that, but it appeals to those at that level. So that's what you'll appeal to, right?
All right. Just go with the flow, because you've got no choice. All right.
Okay, whatever.
All right. Their response was, it's magic.
That's nonsense, though.
No.
That's total
Right.
nonsense.
So imagine that.
That's nonsense.
Why?
Will you give me? Because any human can recite poetry. There's nothing physically impossible that would require supernatural influence to recite poetry.
So why did they say that?
Probably because they were impressed that he was a good poet. Maybe because there were a bunch of kind of.
This is all your conjecture.
No, you see, this is the point. The reaction is we don't know that they said this. Why did they say this? Where did they say this? Why are you asking me to verify your point that you're trying to make?
Yeah, good point, right? Show me the evidence, and how do I know that evidence is reliable? At that point, and then you can appeal, well, everybody knows this, or you can make some other fallacious claim you want to try to get out of it. But again, if you ask the evidence, and you could, like you say, well, I'm going to dismiss the claim that anybody said that until you provide the evidence.
Yeah.
Yes,
all right. See, what I say, the answer to that question is he's doing something that they know is beyond the realms of what they can do.
Okay, where do you get this from? Nobody is saying that.
Conjecture.
Nobody has saying that. Why?
The irony is, right?
He's just making stuff up.
The irony, he accused James of conjecture, and he's doing exactly the same now.
It's impossible to do poetry that good.
Okay. Are you an Arabic poet?
No.
Right. So all I can do.
that's a red herring. What has that got to do with the price of eggs? What are you talking about?
Because James volunteered by saying nobody can do it that good. I think you've got to be careful of what you volunteer as well. This is the thing that we're sort of hopefully remembering ourselves and sort of sharing with other people, is you've got to stay focused on the topic. And the more information you volunteer, the more, like you say, they can take it off in a separate direction to get away from the initial claim. At this point, he hasn't remotely given us even a half a good reason as to why he thinks Muhammad he wants to go down this route, that he's like you said, let's grant that he's a truthful guy, that everybody around him said he never told a lie. Now tell me how that demonstrates that he's a messenger of God.
Yeah.
There is no bridge there. The bridge is invisible. All you've done, if we granted everything you said, is that here's an honest guy. Well, boo-hoo. There's lots of other honest people that have lived on this planet as well. None of them claim to be prophets. And now we get past that red herring. Now tell me an actual reason why you think he's a prophet.
Exactly.
Do is relay what 5 top Arab poets said when they went to listen to the Qur'an, can't I?
Is this really the best evidence that the Quran?
Okay.
Nice question.
How
Nice
can you
answer by James.
How can you have, sorry, I missed this. I need to go back. How can you have 5 poets listening to the Quran when it was not even the Quran?
Yeah, he would have obviously.
They could have heard it's just tidbits, just bits and pieces somewhere collected somewhere, and nobody knows the Quran at this point in time.
And we're supposedly alive with Muhammad, right? So they might have
Exactly.
been hearing him speak or something like that, right? Somebody can speak eloquently and be, an ignoramus can say, on occasions something. I mean, that's not impossible. But anyway, like you say, this is all conjecture on his part anyway. And even if we granted all of this, it doesn't get him any closer to proving that he's a prophet.
Okay, let's hear James's answer.
Top Arab poets said when they went to listen to the Qur'an, can't I?
Is this really the best evidence that the Quran is from God, that it's such good?
No. Remember the 10?
That's
the
a
10?
good response, right? Because now he's taking him back to the original question.
Yeah.
And in actual fact,
field, innit?
he could have been even stronger and say, well, this has got nothing to do with showing that the Quran is God or that Muhammad is his prophet. Absolutely
Exactly.
nothing. And you're going to die on this hill of all you're going to show is that he might have been, if I grant you everything, that he was a truthful guy. But that doesn't mean that he can't be mistaken.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, let's
right.
go-
So
let's
don't
go
worry.
to the heavy
No,
hitters,
no.
because this is kind of
No.
a bit nonsense.
I'm first one.
Nice one.
I'm unraveling.
I'm just, okay,
You.
I'll just say nice one, yeah.
Okay, James, because you don't know anything. It's all conjecture.
But if I know
The
several
irony.
clear errors, then why would I look into the rest of it?
Okay.
I've already,
No.
From what I know, I've already found evidence that it's not from
James,
God. So
James.
I don't need to look into,
James.
how good is this poetry?
James,
because-
what are we
Good
doing
answer.
right now?
Good answer. That's it. All you need to
I-
do, based on the claims, is find one or more errors, and the rest of this sophistry and red herring is irrelevant. He could be the most truthful guy if there's an error in the Quran or more than one, and James thinks he's got them. The rest is irrelevant. Now deal with this. And James is even going to volunteer what the error is so that you can defend it. And obviously, we'll see how that goes.
You're going to ask me for why I think that the Quran isn't from God.
Right, and what did I tell you? This is a river going to the waterfall for you.
But
Okay.
why should the conversation have to be directed on your
Because we have to
terms?
start at the beginning.
But
Because you know why it has to start on my terms? You know why it has to be on my terms?
why?
Because it's my belief.
Okay.
Another
surely-
start?
All right, but
Are you telling me?
Start. That's another non sequitur. I mean, the fallacies this guy can reel out in shotgun fashion is incredible. We don't start where you want to start because it's your belief. We start where James wants to start because he's asking the question, why does you think Muhammad's the answer? Going to this other sophistry because it's your belief doesn't mean that's where it has to start. Another non sequitur doesn't follow that because it's your belief, you dictate where it starts. Answer the question that he's asking you directly and don't go into long stories, your well-rehearsed little script of 4 points about Muhammad.
Tell me how I should explain my belief to you. Should I? Do you have a routine I should go through?
Okay, fair enough. But
He's just told you.
you can talk about
He just told you that he had
Minor
evidence. Why don't you ask him that? He's afraid. That's what it really is. Because when somebody comes along saying this, that it really has them on the back foot. They go, oh, shit. In their mind, they go, this guy's done some research. I might not know what to say at this point. So I'm either going to avoid allowing him to do that, or I'm going to dance around enough to make him look foolish before he gets a chance to do that, so that it doesn't look like when ultimately comes and I can't answer it, that I've lost too bad.
things like how good he
No,
was.
no,
as a
no,
poet
no,
for
no,
a
no.
while,
That wasn't the
that's
point,
fine.
was it?
But like,
What did I ask you?
When you're done with these kind of things that don't really matter, we should go to some of the clearer.
What was the
errors
question I asked you?
in
You
this.
claimed he lied. I said, bring me evidence of him lying. You brought these. Then you brought these. No, you brought the Qur'an saying he's making it up, and then.
Well, I also brought Surat.
No.
Yeah, I also brought other people.
No.
Said that he was making this up.
You said that the Qur'an was saying he's making.
Did you hear this? Okay. But immediately he carries on. He doesn't acknowledge.
Make it up, so he's lying.
Yeah.
So to confirm that, they sent poets, and the conclusion was he's not lying. We don't know where he's getting this from, but wherever it is, it's not man-made.
Stop. Bullshit. We don't know where he's getting this from, and it can't be man-made. No, that's another non sequitur. And even if we granted his again speculative claim that that's what these poets actually said, the fact that they don't know doesn't mean it's not man-made. It just means they don't know. See, this is where critical thinking is obviously not operational, right? The mouth is running and the brain is not following along at the same time. So there's another non sequitur, even if we wanted that case.
The thing is that the Quran claims it's not made by men. I cannot recall anybody saying this is not man-made. I have not come across this. This is just a claim in the Quran and that's it, nothing else.
Just because poets think it's impossible for someone to be...
all I can do...
Wasn't even impossible.
Subjective.
Well, all I can do...
Let's move on to the more important thing.
All I can do is tell you why what the poets reported at the time. Okay, that's all I can do.
Would you agree that that's not very strong evidence for him?
No.
He's a good poet.
This was in refutation that you said he was accused of lying, and that lie. So now, do you have any more evidence that he lied?
Did every single person during Muhammad's life take back that he was a liar?
There we go. This is what you need to do. You need to take very, very precise questions and ask them, and then see what the reaction is. And I think I can predict what is going to happen. He's just going to protest loudly and divert.
Show me any evidence he was called a liar.
Ignore it entirely. Just ignore it entirely. But here's the thing, right? As soon as he asks a question and you fall for the bait, he's not going to answer a question of yours, right? It's now, quote, your claim, even though it's a shifting of the burden of proof. It's now your claim, and he won't. And so you've got to play the same sort of hardball, and you don't allow the tag question at the end. But over time, right? This was when James was still quite new in the book. I'm sure you'll be even better now. I mean, even at that stage, right? He came there, and that's why he won't allow him to. And you'll see as this progresses, he will prolong. He will avoid allowing James, who's coming there saying, "I've got something I want to challenge you on." He'll avoid it until part 2 of this video, and we're not even half through part 1.
There are plenty of people. So, do you agree that there are plenty of people who called him a liar during his life?
No, show me where he was a liar before Islam. Because this is what you're saying, right? This man Muhammad, peace and blessings upon him, for 40 years lived in Mecca, and then all of a sudden he starts making claims, doing this, doing that. You're saying he's lying.
Yeah.
Right. So was he known for 40 years to ever do this lie?
Maybe not.
No, was he or not?
Well, like we wouldn't necessarily have an exhaustive account of his whole life to tell. He was found out to be a liar.
All right.
So there isn't complete evidence on it.
So you don't have any evidence that he lied?
No one has complete evidence.
Do you have any evidence that he lied prior or not?
Do you see? It's just a steamrolling tactic, right?
Yeah.
Keep asking this question over, ignore anything that's said to you, and keep saying, dismiss anything that's said. That's why, again, in the beginning, you got to get clear on what this guy thinks is evidence or proof or whatever. Otherwise, he'll just ignore anything you say. He's not listening to hear anything of substance. The point is to steamroll, as you quite rightly said, to make James look like he doesn't know what he's talking about. But when he actually brings up something and wants to go on to things that he does have information, then Hamza will dance around that.
Nothing. So his character.
But someone could start lying.
Okay.
Or someone could make lies and then not be found out for it, and then later make lies.
That's fine. We don't mind that. But what we're saying right now, for 40 years prior to Islam, he didn't lie. He wasn't.
He just gave him the refutation of your point. He ignores it and repeats it. Come on, man.
Correct.
How thick is this guy?
Known to lie.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And what did he say? First of all, he was known as Al-Amin, the trusted one.
Okay.
Right.
At what point did he acquire that nickname?
Prior to Islam.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'll
check that. That seems a little bit suspect, but I'll check.
And James is right. There is no such thing. There is no record of him being called that. All you have is there's in the Guillaume translation of Ibn Hisham, the Rasulallah, the Sirat, there is a mention that he was called the trustworthy because he was correct in the way that he was counting up the amount of goods that he was transporting in between the cities, and that is it. There is nothing anywhere else. This is
Well, I
just
mean,
a
that's
made-up
all they
thing in
need to
the
run with, right,
biography.
Stops? But that's all they need to run with. If they hear something somewhere in some book they can't reference and the opponent can't explain like you have, they'll just run with that, right? They will extrapolate that to mean he was the honest guy in every single thing, in every other aspect of life as well. Is exactly what
Yeah,
he's
but
doing
then
here, right?
But it also says that when Muhammad was born, that there came a light out of the pudendum of his mother, Amina, which was illuminating the castles and palaces of Syria. Do you also believe that?
No, I'm sure you'll say that's allegorical, or that was just like to, some sort of whatever they would say about that, right? They can dance around that one as well.
Or that the water came jumping out of the well when Amina was pregnant so that she didn't have to bend down so far. Do you believe all these things?
Well, you
No.
can't prove it wrong, Stop. So there we go. I'm entitled to believe it.
That's whether he was widely known as.
Okay, listen, James. If you don't understand or know things, yeah.
The whole thing is exactly around this thing. This is what he's been trying to get to all the time, to say as many times as possible, you don't know anything, you don't have a clue what you're talking about, don't come to the people who know these things and pretend like you have a point. That is all that he's trying to do.
And I bet you, exactly, and I bet you if you went to this video, they'd say that he schooled James or whatever the case is. And you ask, what exactly did he say that was substantive, that it was correct? It's kind of like similar to the question you ask about the Quran. And you will hear absolute silence, like a pin drop, or you'll hear some sophistry and somebody just open their mouth and babbling words come out, again, mimicking exactly what's been said here, nothing of substance.
I don't mind you going away and checking it out. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
But don't laugh as if it's not true.
It just sounds a little bit suspect.
No, just because it doesn't suit your agenda. That's why.
No, it
Oh,
just
well,
sounds like the
it
kind
suits
of
your
thing
agenda
that
to
someone
make
would
a
make
claim.
up after they had political power to try and bolster their.
It's just conjecture. This is just your subjective opinion, man.
Yeah, but that's what historians have to do. They have to think about what's the most likely.
Right. So
what explains the evidence.
So what do we have? Muhammad, peace be upon him, speaking to the people, and he said, if I were to tell you there's an army on the other side of the mountain, what would you do?
We can
And they said, "Oh, we
investigate to see
prepare our
whether there was an army, obviously.
defences because we know you tell the truth."
Okay.
And then he said, well, if you believe me in that, why don't you believe me now?
Stop. Non sequitur. There we go. Even Muhammad's, I think we know that anyway, engaged in fallacious thinking. Because one claim is a mundane claim and the other is not. That's the simple, straightforward answer in one sentence.
Well, because you're making a more kind of what should we call it? Extraordinary claim.
There you go.
When
Well
you make
done,
claims like, for example, drinking camel urine and
Yes,
milk will help
no.
your health.
Yes, that's exactly right, what James is saying.
No, we're talking about a man who has been known for 40 years as a truthful one to suddenly start lying, and the people...
Why is that impossible?
No. He asked the people, if I were to tell you now there's an army, they would believe him, isn't it? And they give their reasons why.
Maybe if they... But here's...
Do you notice that Hamza, if he's stuck on his script, he cannot deviate. It doesn't matter what you do. He's repeated this now because he's been thrown off guard by this camel urine thing because he knows that there's something wrong there. And he quickly goes back to this because it's the only go-to that he has at that moment. He is not allowing his brain to take over and engage in a dialogue. No, he has to rattle off this thing with the army behind the mountain, and you see they believed him, so why should he start lying suddenly? He does not in any way take into consideration what James has just told him. Look at his face now, look at his body language. He is shit scared. He doesn't know what to do. This is why he's just repeating without really knowing, oh my fuck, what have I done now? How do I engage this? Is this dangerous for me? What do I do here? He does not know what is going on at the moment.
I think, like you say,
Another thing.
it's safe to stay on the script than to keep repeating something and just ignore what your opponent has said. Don't engage with it at all, especially if you don't know how to engage with it. You just either pretend he didn't say something, or that it's vague, or it's whatever the case is, right? These are all tactics. But another thing you could do here is turn it around and say, hey, I don't think Muhammad was that told, I don't think that Muhammad was correct about the supernatural. Demonstrate to me that he was. Even if I grant you that he was this wonderful guy that you keep claiming was so truthful, I want you to demonstrate how that translates with the supernatural claims. Where's the evidence that that part is correct and he's not mistaken?
Well, does he actually believe that on the other side or the other wing of the fly, there's the cure for the disease on the one? Come on, does he really believe this?
Mansour's tried to defend that. So yes, these guys probably do. He's tried to defend that scientifically. I kid you not. There'll be a video. I saw it somewhere. I was like, I was flabbergasted that he would open his mouth to try and defend something like that. But that's the level they have to stoop to, is to claim that, no, it's been scientifically demonstrated. I mean,
oh my God.
To believe it, yeah.
Think about it. Maybe if they said, no, we wouldn't believe you, he'd take that as insulting, so they wouldn't want to insult him.
He didn't have leadership there.
Okay, but maybe just insulting anyone.
Maybe. This is all conjecture, man. This is
well, no,
this is nothing, man.
No, it's talking about what human behavior is.
Just stop for a second. Here's another tactic, right? He will latch on to, cherry pick, quote mine, a particular word. And the best example ever of this is he's had at least 3 discussions with Phil. He's been to school for free, didn't have to pay for it, to learn for at least 3 hours, I think, in total over different periods of time. And you know what he said?
This, I will quickly get to fill my glass.
Yeah, sure. And you know what he said? I'll give you, guess in the comments what he said. After listening to Skydive Phil for 3 hours, his summation of speaking with Skydive Phil was, I don't know. That's what he took away on occasions when Skydive Phil was intellectually honest in regards to the views on certain questions in cosmology. He latched onto that and said, Skydive Phil, I don't know. That's what he took away. If that's the sort of, quote, student, well, I mean, obviously he's not a student because everything goes in one ear and out the other, or over his head, whichever. But if that's the sort of response you're going to get, anything else is just going to bounce off. And then this guy wants to, claim that he's a lion of Speaker's Corner. Right? But he only deals to the gullible and the ignorant who are listening to the tonality of the voice, because there is no substance coming out in content. So what's left? You've got to, make James look foolish, or attempt to. Good with that. You haven't even remotely demonstrated that. And try to yourself look good at the same time without actually saying anything of substance. Now, of course, that doesn't work for most of us who are paying close attention here. But for a number of, and I unfortunately hear from them, that's how I know this. A number of the gullible and ignorant Muslims will think that there's a schooling, and then you're going to ask them. And if they were on here listening to this, and they had to point out anything that he said to defend his view that's remotely substantial that we could even discuss, you wouldn't find a single thing. And he's off on this little script about the Muhammad thing because it's easy for him to knock down straw men that other people aren't, or force James or somebody else to go down that route. But once you understand this, right, it's like you opening a book. It's like Harry Potter, where you can't see the words. You say something, some words are revealed. Now you can read him like a book. That's what I'm hoping the people who are watching will probably already know it, most of them. But if you haven't, it's the first time, or even if you're a Muslim and you are skeptical, open-minded, I'm now opening for you the book of Hamza here so that you can see what's going on, because you've never thought about it, never taken the time. I've taken that time, so I can read like a book now, these sort of guys. Notice the tactics. I might not always catch it the first time, but once or twice, suddenly it clicks for me, if not the first time. And then I've got it. Now I know what's going on. So after that stops, hopefully you're back. But there we go.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, plenty. I saw this with hijab as well. I mean, come on, he on the infinite regress and infinity as such, he was schooled by Phil. 2 weeks later, he made the same thing again. So it's not easy to get some real information.
But these guys are almost immune to hearing anything that might in any way get them to think about their views. Yeah. That's how deeply dogmatic some of these people are. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them, like Hamza and that sort of crew, they're very deeply dogmatic. They want to come across as being reasonable, but actually the dogma is deeply ingrained, and anything that might even look like it could get a minor crack in the dogmatism will be rejected out of hand in some tactical way.
like. This
is a man.
Most
Okay.
people wouldn't call someone to their face, "No, you're a liar. We wouldn't believe you."
Why not? Why not?
Because it's rude and stuff.
Okay, and they were rude to him. They've been persecuted, his people.
No, other time, but
No.
Are they the exact same people at all times?
This is at the time in Mecca when he's just come down and tell them stop worshipping idols. Yeah, and the whole place is what's going on.
And
This is
rejected him at that time. Initially. People rejected him at that time.
Yes.
Initially, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what your idea is. How people don't want to insult him.
Huh?
You said people didn't want to insult him. This tells me again. No, sorry, James. Sorry.
I can explain my reasoning for this.
Do you know the history of Muhammad?
To some degree.
To listen to your
Yes,
reasoning,
no.
I'm just going to steamroll over you and keep making my unsubstantiated claims as if they are true, even though I haven't brought any evidence for it. But I'll keep asserting it because that's what makes me look good, and my gullible followers will nod along like sheep.
Well, no, do you know the complete history of Muhammad? Your answer would be no as well.
No.
So
if you want to make a claim,
you know more about Muhammad than me.
No, James. You came in here with your logic. All right.
Yeah.
Logic dictates. You make a claim, support your claim.
Yeah.
All right. You can't support any claim you've made so far.
No,
The irony.
I have supported all of
Irony
them.
of that.
How did you
So,
support
for example, you said, like, who called Muhammad a liar during his life?
No, I said-
There's several people. Like, one of his uncles called
I said
him
prior
a
to
liar.
Islam. Prior to Islam.
Okay,
Doesn't
I
matter
don't know of
when it
anyone who
was.
called him a liar prior to Islam. I already said that.
Why did you just say that then?
I said that earlier.
Why though?
No, I agreed with you.
Alhamdulillah.
You said it.
So you take that claim back then?
What?
That
He
was
never
a liar
made the
prior to
claim.
Islam.
Let me take
I
that
never
claim
made
back.
that claim. I said he might have been. There's no
Stop there
reason.
again. Stop
There is
just
a
for a
strong
moment.
reason to suggest.
But this is the other thing. Either he doesn't listen, or he does listen, or he forgets, or he just completely ignores what was said before. He's done this before. We saw it with Ray, etc. as well. So it's the same sort of thing, right? It's as you say. There's a script here. He doesn't even remember what was said, and he does feel misrepresented, likely on purpose. I'm beginning to think it's purposeful, as opposed to he just has the memory of a goldfish and doesn't remember 2 seconds ago. Maybe he doesn't actually remember it. Maybe I'm leaning towards him actually remembering and then intentionally misrepresenting it. I also saw it with Phil, to the point where, because I was standing there at that one time, where I was in the park at that stage, to the point where after the third or fourth time he did this, and Phil says, no, that's because he loves the term. So what you're saying is da-da-da. And as soon as you hear it from this guy, you know that it's going to be a misrepresentation.
Yeah.
And I said that at the
Good
time.
point.
I think I mentioned, Phil said, no, that's not what I'm saying. And eventually I said something like, because I was frustrated, I was filming, I didn't say a word, I was letting them have a go. And I keep saying this, you say what you want, you say what you believe and what you think you heard, but you didn't actually, and so I said something to him about it.
Yeah, and this is Imran on opposite us, and I think on the left here is Abbas. I think I saw his face.
He never lied before Islam, because it's quite easy to get away with some
right now
lies.
you got nothing. Let's move on. All right.
Yeah, I agree. We should move on, because whether or not he's a good poet or whether or not he was known for lying the first 20
Why
years
would he
of his
lie?
life, kind of those sorts of arguments aren't
Why would he lie?
important or persuasive.
Why would he lie?
Great
Why
stuff.
would he lie?
But you've got to say it
For-
stronger, James. That's the main thing. There, you've just
You were
dismissed
on a
that.
good track. Yeah.
No, he did well there. He's just got to be stronger with that, as in the tonality and stuff like that. But he's good. Let's move on. This was all bollocks. essentially.
For several incentives, to have power, to feel important, for just to feel like a leader, that sort of thing.
Okay, how much that he's now going to tell us the often repeated lie that he was a simple man, a poor man, that often there was no smoke coming out of the chimney, that he left absolutely nothing when he died. I would be prepared to bet quite a lot of money that this is now the next thing that's going to happen.
So you believe he lied. So the reason you believe he would lie is for money and power. Who was,
It's a
those sorts of
possibility.
who was he married to at this point?
A rich widow.
Did he need money?
He might have wanted
Does this
more
sound
money.
Did he need
familiar at
money?
all?
No,
Does
no,
this
no,
sound?
Starving, but you ask a kind of someone who makes 6K or 6-figure salary. Do you need money?
She's the
They'll be
richest
like,
woman
no.
in Mecca.
Is she the absolute richest woman in Mecca?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder if that was kind of elaborated on or kind of embellished after Muhammad's life as well.
More conjecture.
The absolute richest
More conjecture.
person in in Mecca.
So you're not really doing much about my belief right now because you got nothing.
Well, no,
but anyway, let me continue.
That's because you don't want to go to the actual flawed verses in the
We'll go
Qur'an.
there. We'll go there. Don't worry.
No, we won't.
Okay, but
Don't worry.
I feel like part of your overall strategy is just to talk about things that don't matter that much, like how good a poet he was, until like one of us gets so bored that kind of the conversation.
No, James. No, James.
Because
Nicely said.
No,
James. And errors.
No, James.
Yeah, I know you don't want to go to the important.
No, we will do. We will.
Nicely
We'll go
said.
to your witnesses.
Go on.
Inshallah,
Nice.
we'll get that quickly.
No, we'll get there because here's the thing. You see, James, you're not genuine and you're not sincere.
Really?
Yeah.
Why did I say you're not genuine? You're not sincere.
Thank you.
Because you are listening. You don't want to listen at the moment to the
And
flaws in
in
the.
fact, not genuine, sincere here. Let's stop it right there. That part actually does get me. I choose to feel a tad bit frustrated with that bollocks. Look in the mirror, dude. Who's the one who's not being genuine? You're not engaging. You just steamroll over any of his responses. He's entirely right. The only person I see being not genuine here is you, and you've got the cheek and the irony to suggest that that's him, without evidence, by the way. But this is the last straw. It's the last shot of a drowning man. You're not genuine here. But I don't have any good reasons. I'll give you my subjective opinion on something. I've got nothing else left. When you hear something like this, the man is drowning.
You've not said anything.
Because you haven't let me.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing, James. Here's the thing, James. You see, right now, I don't believe you're sincere or genuine. Honestly, all right?
Who the fuck cares
way you're
what you
quoting
think about
Qur'an verses with numbers and stuff, it tells me you've been googling. Anyway, so right now.
So when I bring like direct evidence,
so James,
it shows you that I'm in.
So James, so what I'm doing right now is telling you why I believe what I believe.
Okay.
Right.
You haven't done
now,
that the whole time.
I don't believe Muhammad lied. You're saying he lied. So I'm going to look at this to see if it's a possibility. All right.
Okay.
Now we've established there's no evidence that he's ever lied.
Stop again.
Price.
Just again, remember that they were going to move on. James wanted to move on, and he actually strongly said it, which I appreciate. And now we stop this thing. See, this is where with something like this, you need to be tough. Like Stops and I wouldn't allow this, but okay, it's only because we've had practice. And even at that stage, I would have been kind of newish at the stage because James came after me. So it's all good. It's learning. So this is really just, and if you listen now, James is a lot better at that. He doesn't allow himself to be steamrolled like he is here. But you and I would never allow us to continue like this. But it's experience, right?
You need to listen to some subtle keywords here, because what he has just smuggled in is saying we have established. No, we have not.
Yeah.
You've made a claim, a one-sided claim that has been refuted. So it has not been established at all.
Islam.
Or after Islam.
No, I think there's good evidence. There's definitely evidence, there's evidence that casts suspicion.
Okay, okay. There's a difference between having suspicion of someone lying and proving they've lied.
Yeah, okay, there's evidence that.
Can you show me any time he lied?
Okay, I'll show you evidence that he lied for his convenience. Okay, so
no, because now you're going to a false assumption. I'm not allowing you there.
Stop. You see, again, here you've got to stop it at this point. You see what he's going to dismiss anything James has because he doesn't know if he can respond to it adequately at all. Because there's a lot. As a Muslim, people can bring you all kinds of things, right? If you're in the park, you're totally exposed. So what these guys have become relatively good at is finding tactics to not have to deal with something directly and honestly and concisely because they either don't know or to the degree that they might have heard about it or know about it, their answer might not be sufficient. So at this stage, he's going, no, again, where James wants to bring the information, right? So this is just something where you have to, do a bit of your own steamrolling. Otherwise, it's going to direct the conversation again.
Yes. Why are you laughing?
Because you asked, is there any evidence that he lied?
Well, I don't believe they're Muhammad's words.
What?
It's in there. No, I don't.
There you go.
International. It's translated.
Oh, that's the Qur'an.
Yes, Qur'an.
But I don't believe the Qur'an's Muhammad's words.
Excuse me? That was a good one. What just happened here?
He said,
I don't believe they're Muhammad's words.
What?
It's in there. No, I don't.
It's Sahih International. It's translated.
Oh, that's the Qur'an.
Yes, Qur'an.
But I don't believe the Qur'an's Muhammad's words.
Okay, but I can show you, but I'll explain it to you.
He just said they were Muhammad's words. He just said he was the one who transmitted the Quran to the people.
No.
I give you evidence that this is probably made up by Muhammad.
I'll say it again to you.
I'll show you good evidence that this is made up by Muhammad.
James.
If
I'm telling you what.
If you are sincere and you want to learn, then you want to be good evidence.
nicely.
Excellent.
Whoa, beautiful comeback. I love it. If you're sincere and you
was-
want to learn, right? Because that was his claim earlier on. So now the tables are
Exactly.
being turned. Of course, he doesn't want to learn. He wants to steamroll because he thinks there isn't anything he can learn, or that James is personally has got nothing to teach him, right? But I love that. That was a great comeback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and Abdulhamid, hate. I think you
Here's our
have
favorite
more
troll,
hate
right?
towards atheists than atheists have towards
Yeah, well,
Muslims or
what defines
Islam.
hate?
So,
Yeah, tell me what defines hate and why I should accept it. And I'll leave you for the rest of your life to actually come up with any sort of substantial answer to my question. I've asked many people, I haven't had one yet, and I doubt you'll be the
Wants
first.
to learn. You shut up and listen.
Okay, I'll let you listen, but will you let me show you some good evidence that this is not from the Hamid after a while?
No.
There you go.
You'll never listen to any.
No.
evidence that
I'll
this
get
is
there.
from
We'll get to the
Hamid.
Qur'an, mate. But
Okay.
I'm not going to allow you to start making false assumptions. Sorry, I'm not going to make points on false assumptions. I don't believe those are Muhammad's words. Peace be upon him. All right?
Okay, but what?
So-
what
so
if-
for
what
you-
if within these
Okay,
words,
so
there is
stop it
good
again
evidence
there. Stops. He doesn't believe, presumably what he doesn't believe is that what James has got is a Sahih Hadith, correct? Am I following?
No. He's talking about the Quran, that this is actually, the author is God and not Muhammad.
Oh, okay, right. So he doesn't believe those are Muhammad's words, or they are Muhammad's words. What he really means is he doesn't believe that Muhammad himself did it without intervention or direction, like revelation.
Yeah.
And
But they
James
are
is saying,
Muhammad's
No.
words.
yeah. Okay, so James is saying,
You
no,
can come to that.
these are
I don't
Muhammad's
mind.
words. Yeah. Sorry, it's a bit of a lag.
Okay, because this is what really matters to me.
No,
and so,
yeah.
like, this kind of window dressing that you're going through
There is
right
no
now,
window dressing.
Like, does he have an incentive to lie? That doesn't
No.
matter to me so much. So
Your
you- like,
accusation.
I'll
There is
give
no
it to
window
you.
dressing here, mate. You're a character assassinating somebody, right? So you're
But
saying
it's based on evidence
No.
that you're not willing to look at.
no, but you're saying
Yeah,
that's
they
Muhammad's words,
all
and
the
I'm saying it's
time,
not.
right? Can you hear it? This is just mismatching. It's a psychological technique of just no. Everything's no, right? Because if you accept something and you say less, yes, in this particular case, in his view, that's weak. So one way, like I said, to do that is to get him to agree to things in the beginning, to say yes to, that he couldn't say no to. And if he says no at that point, you point it out and you just say you're disingenuous. You don't want to learn. What are the terms where you're not? What's the word? You're not genuine, right? Use the terms that he's used against him. Because the tactic here is no on everything. And as long as he keeps saying that, the Muslims won't even remember the content of what he said here. They'll just remember that he's disagreeing and that he got the better because he shouted louder and he was able to dominate over James with a steamrolling technique that had nothing of substance behind it.
By the way, I did not stop the video intentionally on this shot, but I don't think it's flattering for Hamza.
I can't see it that well. I mean, I'm on my phone, but I can't see it that well.
Yeah, but I'll show you that. It is Muhammad's words.
Oh, show me the Muhammad's words.
Okay, cool.
Go on,
So I'm going to show you that this can't be from the super
Go,
intelligent
show me.
creator of the universe
Show me.
because it contains a very simple
Show me.
mathematical error.
Oh, standard. No, I'm not going to go there.
Oh, stop. There you go, right? I'm not going to go there. And I tell you what, he doesn't go there in this first part, if I remember correctly. It happens in part 2. How much time is left there, Stops, in this video, just so we know?
12.
12 minutes. He will not go there in the next 12 minutes, right? He said, I'm going to show you these are Muhammad's words, right? Because Allah make a mistake. No. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to actually deal with or listen to your thing. By the way, this is one tactic. Paul Williams wouldn't deal with it either when I did it. Oh, there's answers out there. I know there's answers. I don't know what they are, but I know they're out there. Same thing that he did, right? Because I won't spill the beans, but happens in part 2, right? They've heard that there's a response to that. That's good enough. Whether the response is substantial, somebody's uttered something, right? This is the Muslim mindset of at least some, if not a substantial majority of Muslims. As long as some scholar has said something, it's been answered. The brain is not going to engage, and let's go through this, and I'll show you why your scholars have never answered the inheritance error such that that they've given an answer where I go, okay, I'll accept that. That's good enough. It's never been answered substantially in any way. That error is irrefutable in the Quran. And of course, he's got no way to defend it. And you'll see he doesn't even know what it means. Can't even count later on in the second part. So he's going to avoid it now. The fact that he can do this with a straight face and Muslims will be nodding along. If I was a Muslim, I'd go, what the fuck's going on here? Defend it. You're a champion. Let him do it and destroy him. Show me the answer to this so that I can go in and do it for all these other quote-unquote Islamophobes.
Yeah. Because I have the knowledge. I am the Muslim. I should be able to do
Correct.
that. I have God on my side.
Bring it on. I'll answer any question.
Yeah.
If I don't know, I've got Imran here. I'll look it up. Whatever the case is, there's nothing I can't answer. But no. I mean, how weak are you, right? This was 2 years ago. Now they all scatter from James. Now he's a hate preacher like Hatun, whatever the case is, and they all run away. They scatter away now because these guys, Hatun or James or Bob the Builder, whoever it is, they're all hate preachers. They bring the nuanced, carefully thought through discussions that these guys can't answer in any nuanced way. But again, the Muslims just think as long as their buddies open their mouth and say something, they've answered it or they've been refuted. I mean, this is where, again, there's a bit of rhetoric like in me at the moment. This is where the virus hits the brain and critical thinking is just dissolved. It's gone. I don't know if you can ever get it back for some of these people.
Well, Abdul Hamid is boasting that you've been owned so many times. Well, then
he couldn't demonstrate one of them.
You've seen how it's done. I'm going to put the link in there now. You will come here and then you will own Rob because you've seen how it's done. He
can't speak English.
You've seen it many, many times. So I'm sure one of the many times that Rob has been owned, you can recall and then you can own Rob here in public on his own channel. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Will you do that? Will you come here and own Rob on his own channel, critiquing somebody else's video? I mean, this should be like you should be salivating by now at the chance of being able to do that, seeing that you've seen so many times that he's been owned. So you should know how to do it. Is that okay? Should I do that?
He can't even type one time or so, let alone open his mouth and speak. But he's in Holland or whatever, although the Dutch speak very good English. One of the best, when I've been over there and so forth. And of course, I can understand a little bit if they speak slowly. Ek kan Afrikaans praat en hulle kan my verstaan. So I just said I speak Afrikaans and they can understand me better than I can understand Dutch. But their English is really good for, continental countries. So no reason why he couldn't do that. But he couldn't even type it out, Stoff. So it's never mind talking about it. Even type something out, and that would be, a miracle. I would start believing miracles if this guy Hamid could actually give me something substantive that I've been owned on that subsequently turned out to be true. I would say there must be some sort of God, probably not Allah, or almost guaranteed not to be Allah, but maybe there's another God because I've witnessed this guy give me something substantive. That would be as close to a miracle as I'm likely to see.
Okay. All right.
No, you don't want to hear the evidence that this is not.
No, you were going to show me the Muhammad's words.
Yeah, and but either it's from God or it's from Muhammad.
Right.
That's reasonable, right? And if I'm going to show, and I'll show you that it's definitely not from God because God makes a mathematical mistake.
All right, but that would mean, and this is what you're not getting, James. And I'll be honest with you, I said I don't think it's sincere. If that is not from Muhammad, if that is from Muhammad and not God, that means Muhammad's a liar and he made it all up, right? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to understand the feasibility of that claim.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop there. I'm not going to deal with the claim. I'm going to go to something else here because if I can show he's truthful, then I can just dismiss your claim and say, no, couldn't have been. Muhammad is truthful. Again, small thing for James is you just have to acknowledge that he's mistaken. You don't have to say he's a liar. He's mistaken. He could have been truthful about things, and no human being who's rational, and that's a question mark in discussion whether that's the case for some people, at least rational, could possibly they will have to concede that even if somebody's truthful, they can still be mistaken. The two are not mutually exclusive. And that's all you need for him to concede, and then you can bring this. But now he wants to go off on the tangent here to still examine Muhammad's character when he's got some evidence being presented to him, and he's even got his buddies there to help him out. So he's not all on his own.
Yeah, but he can't allow that because Muhammad can't lie. You see, so the evidence in the Qur'an is not as strong as his personal characterization of the good character of Muhammad who doesn't lie. So if Muhammad doesn't lie, then it's impossible that he could have authored the Quran. This is his reasoning.
Yeah, that's the presupposition.
Totally stupid.
That's a good point, and it's the presupposition. So in order to ever have that, you have to look at something else. You've got to put him on a pedestal, because then you can dismiss these claims without having to go into them in detail. Hey, one of the scholars has answered that, but I'm satisfied that it's possible because he's this wonderful truth-telling person. Although they don't realize, of course, that doesn't mean that he can't be mistaken. And even if you point this out like you would to a child, it would probably go in one ear and out the other, or over somebody's head.
I would not go and use this approach that James is using. I would say, I don't care who actually authored this, but would you think a God would admit to having written this with this really bad mistake? And this is the way to do it, not to pin this on Muhammad, but leave it open and just say, look, I don't think a God will actually go and commit and say, yeah, I did it. I don't think so.
This is another thing,
Yeah.
just a side point. You see it in the chat. Why don't you attack Christianity? When Muslims are under pressure and they've got nothing else, it's either you don't know it in Arabic, or why aren't you attacking Christianity? Again, this is like the last gasp of a drowning person, right? You notice the tactics and certain responses when there's nothing else, when the back's against the wall or the hand is the last thing up and they're drowning. This will be the last little thing that will bubble to the surface. Hey, why not Christianity? Or you don't know it in Arabic.
We're not attacking Islam. We're not attacking Islam. So why should we attack Christianity? Why should we do that? We're not attacking.
We're just doing a bold critique, but it's okay when he does a bold defense that isn't even a defense. Then Hamid would be nodding along with his buddy Hamza. Wow, he's done a great job. Hamid, what did he say that was great? No, I'm sure he just did a great job. Yeah. Come back to me when you've got something substantive.
Stop hiding.
Probably have to wait.
There. We asked them to come here for the last 10 years, and they've been running away for 10 years. And please, Abdelhamid, I told you before, set up the debate. We're not going to run away. Set up the debate. We're going to be there. Just not tell us go to Speaker's Corner or something stupid. We're in the 21st century. We can do it from home. So they are running away, not us. I'm not running away. I went on their channel and they told us, please don't come back, we are scared of you.
I'm trying to understand how you can accuse this man of lying.
Okay.
So there's two things. So James.
Your methodology is flawed, and I can explain why. So the reason why your methodology doesn't make sense is because if I did show you a kind of clear-cut evidence that this isn't from God, even if it wouldn't make any sense for Muhammad lying, we would have to conclude that Muhammad lies because this wasn't from God.
Right.
Or he's mistaken.
Or he's mistaken, or whatever. But I wouldn't even mention this. I would just go for the mistake, and that's it.
Correct. But all we really need to say there is, all we would conclude is that it's been from God. That's all you need to bury Islam, right? Is to demonstrate that the Quran cannot be from God. He could be the most truthful guy, whether he's a liar, whatever. At the minimum, he's mistaken, and the Quran is not from God. End of story. Good night. We're finished, right? That's all he needs to say at this point. But of course, that claim is easier for him to potentially demonstrate, especially with the inheritance error, and almost impossible for Darren to defend. So instead of that, we'll dance around it and we won't defend it directly.
Should we let him do the evidence?
No, I am.
It's going to be a stupid one, isn't it?
Even if you manage to show that there is no good reason,
There we go.
We'll come to that.
By the way, he's not the only one.
We'll come to that.
We will.
He's not the only one. Hijab did it.
We'll come to that.
Muhammad was lying.
No.
Stops.
For Muhammad to...
But Hijab did this as well when he responded. James brought this to him in the park, and he didn't have any sort of response in the park. And it's fair enough in a sense that they don't have it. Then all you have to say is, hey, I've not heard of that. I'm going to go research it. I, as a reasonable person, will go, okay, I understand it. There's lots of different things in Islam. I don't expect you to be a walking encyclopedia of everything. But to them, that's, and to their gullible followers, that sounds like weakness. They can't ever say, I don't know. Or it's so rare they have to be back absolutely against the wall when it's like they're completely, not wearing any clothes and the emperor's not wearing clothes, etc. Then they have their back ends. Maybe they'll occasionally say, but they could easily, do you know what, James? I haven't heard that. Tell me what the verse is. I'll go away and research that. But of course, you can't do that because it sounds like weakness to the gullible. To you and I, that's entirely intellectually honest. And so we're going to dismiss it. But before we do that, we're going to poison the well, like Hijab said. This is a weak response. Scholars have answered this as if to, because that's called poisoning the well. So you're giving the impression to the gullible and the ignorant who are not paying attention for the content that this has already been dealt with. So they already have their brains tuned to have a dismissal before they've even heard it. That's why it's a logical fallacy that's part of the lexicon.
And you see another tactic in the chat right now, because Ansar just asked, well, if you are making the claim that there was an argument made by Subur against Rob, which one was it? And Abdelhamid is weak, dishonest, totally clueless, doesn't know what to do, so he says, go and watch the video. That's his only reply. It shows that he has absolutely no clue what he's talking about, and he's just been caught out with his pants down, and all he can do is tell you, go and watch the video. He has nothing, just like,
Well, let's give him
like Hamza.
Let's give him the advice. On this very channel, I've got 2 1-hour refutations of that conversation. Why did you go and watch that and attempt to educate yourself? I appreciate in your case it may be difficult. You seem like a very dogmatic Muslim, and I encounter them regularly. Not all of them are like that. I'll be upfront about that. But there's 2 1-hour refutations with researched evidence refuting or rebutting or exposing the claims that were supposedly made. But watch those and then come back to me and tell me what you think I was mistaken about. And I bet you that will be an infinite amount of time before that happens. So I'm able to actually claim that there is something that's infinite. Your ability to come back and say something substantial.
And here's another display of another tactic very often used by Muslim apologists, which is when they don't know what to say anymore, when they run out of ideas, out of brain, out of anything, no more arguments, they go and attack the person. That is exactly what we see here. Now he's starting to shout at poor Hamza, who's just asked him a question. This is typical. This is typical what we see with Muslim apologists all the time. I don't know why this is.
To lie, you first have to give me the motive for the lie and back it up.
Why does there need to be a motive?
Because, well, why is he lying? Why after 40
Red
years?
herring fallacy.
Most
We should
people have a
tally up
motive
the
for lying,
fallacies.
but not everyone, right?
Yes,
exactly.
Wait. James. So you're
Stop
saying
there
to me,
again, quickly stop. So I apologize. It's so often. But I mean, he talks so much nonsense with such regularity and so quickly in succession that I don't want to miss some of the bigger points. It was what was it? What was that fallacy I just said now? Because I'm already thinking of the next thing, because he goes so quickly through one fallacious thing through the other. But I just named the fallacy. There's somebody else in the chat will tell me. It just shows that I'm like in the zone here, and I don't remember the last thing I said because I'm like focused on the next thing. All right, carry on. Back to me.
most people have a reason to say something they know is not true without reason. Really?
No, you've totally kind of got it wrong.
What's a lie?
I'm saying
What's a lie?
most people have an incentive for lying.
What's a lie?
We can agree on
What's
that.
a lie?
Some people do not have an incentive
What is
for
a
lying,
lie?
but lie
What is a
anyway.
lie?
Intentionally saying something you know is not true.
Right. So if you were going to do that, and you use the key word intentionally,
Yes.
why would you intentionally do that?
What is intention?
This is irrelevant, right?
Okay, no, but like, let me kind of break it down because I've used the wrong word here. Okay, so
I know you have.
So if you can intentionally lie.
Look at the laughter around there, as if they have made a point. They haven't made a point, but again, we're appealing to it's like all of these people need to have a brain upgrade. They're on, DOS or Windows 3.1, and it's giving blue screens, and they think that somehow, rebooting constantly is somehow a feature, not a bug. So the laughter here, because he's used a different word, is just, but he's brought up a red herring. We've got to go and look at the intention. No, we don't. All we have to do is show this error. If in fact this is an error, you would have to agree, wouldn't you? No, I'm not interested in whether there was an intention, whether he lied, whether he's mistaken. It's irrelevant. Here's a point I want to bring to you. Stop dancing around and bring red herrings. James kind of said at one point, but now unfortunately, slightly gone back on this. So hopefully he watches or, whatever the case is. And it's easy to do it from the armchair as well, right? When you're in the moment, obviously, especially as you get better and better, it's not always so easy to do it live. You've got people around, and most of the people are on his side, and they're just as hypnotized as any other Muslim that's either watching later or that's there watching live.
Without there being any apparent gain that would align with a normal person's.
So why would you lie?
Align with a normal person's utility.
So why would you lie?
Say.
Why would you lie?
It might just kind of take you on the space.
Why would you want? Look. If you're going to lie, you have a reason to lie. Mm-hmm. You might lie to protect your honor. You might lie because you want some personal gain. You might lie because you want to get something.
Right. Has anyone ever lied for no kind of understandable reason.
I don't know. Do you know if anyone has?
Yeah, lots of people
Give me,
lie for no
give me an example. Give me an example.
There's some people who kind of just enjoy lying. They enjoy like tricking people.
So they have a motive. So they enjoy.
It's not a motive that other people would understand, but like so it's not a normal motive. It's not like a clear incentive.
So
but you could say
why do they lie?
It's still a motive.
So why do they lie? So it's a motive.
Yes, it's a motive.
Right,
But it doesn't have an incentive behind it.
It does have motive.
Yeah, it has a motive.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So should we agree a lie requires a motive?
Yeah.
Okay, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, but like the reason why we went down this is because like a normal incentive is generally understood to be either
Just stop
material
there for a sec.
possessions.
So I let it run a bit. But there's a key phrase he used that needs to be used against him. Do we agree that? Okay, so he said it about, maybe 10 seconds ago. Do we agree that? Alhamdulillah, right? So that's the phrase that needs to be used against him to get him in agreement. Because he's a mismatcher and his entire purpose is to argue with every single point that any opponent brings up, because if he has to agree, it looks like there's some weakness or a chink in the armor. That's the tactics being used. So we have to do it the other way as well and not go off the point. Hey, do you agree with? Okay, you don't agree. Why don't you agree? Do you agree now? Do you agree? Right? That's maybe that's what I'll test if I ever get another chance to use that phrase against him. Because if he says no, then the burden is on him to say
why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
The motive.
Well, I said incentive.
I know you did. So take it back. Let's go back again.
You didn't say motive to begin with.
Yes, I did.
said incentive.
What was his motive?
Well, we'll check on that later. Maybe I forgot.
All right, I'm saying it now. What was his motive?
Okay, fine. He had a motive.
What was his motive?
We don't know for sure. So we can only speculate.
So let's understand your claim so far. This man, for 40 years, has been known not to lie. Okay. And then all of a sudden, for
this
no
is all
reason,
your speculation.
he starts lying.
Possibly.
And enjoys it. And enjoys
Stop
it.
there.
Yeah,
Stop
maybe
there. The straw man that this guy sets up, that he thinks he can knock over, another fallacy. We should count up the fallacies. Maybe next time stops actually, because we've got to articulate it and why. So we're telling the viewing audience why, because otherwise you can just make stuff up, right? Somebody could disagree, but they can only disagree if they can respond to something, because anybody can make anything, right? So this is what's called a straw man. James never said that he never lied for 40 years. Okay, that's the one thing. He said he didn't know if there was one before, but that's irrelevant anyway. So not only is it a straw man, but it's irrelevant to the point that James wants to bring. So the fallacies just stack up here. And if you say them loudly and repeatedly, again, the people who are listening will just nod their heads because they already believe the stuff.
And is persecuted for it.
Yeah, but maybe there are kind of other reasons though. But for me, this is of tertiary importance because like I said,
I'll tell you why it's not tertiary importance.
Like I've said already,
I'll tell you why it's not.
If I can show that this Quran isn't from
I'll tell you why it's not tertiary.
and therefore it must be from Muhammad, therefore he must be for a liar, for whatever reason he decided to lie.
I'll tell you why it's not tertiary.
We do not need to know the reason why Muhammad decided to lie
no, it is.
in order to
ascertain
whether this book is from God or not.
If you're telling me that I don't believe Muhammad lied, and you're saying you're wrong, Muhammad lied,
yeah.
I want to know why.
No, it's irrelevant.
Sometimes we don't know
All he has to show you a mistake,
Right, so
it's a lie or not. All he has to do is show you a mistake. And this is where you've got to respond back. Right, his whole thing is no. And the response is either yes, or no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. You have to play the same sort of game. It's irrelevant what the motive is or whether he lied or he's mistaken. Again, red herring, right? But they just keep flowing. And I don't know whether he realizes he's doing this or he's just completely ignorant on how to have a substantial discussion. It's just so riddled with fallacies left, right, and center. It's hard for him to utter more than one sentence without invoking a fallacy, which is why we keep stopping all the time.
Should I believe he lied?
Because I've got evidence from the Quran.
So you're going to go there?
All right. Yes,
all right. Okay.
Let's just go there. Inshallah.
How did he lie?
How did he lie?
Yeah.
By claiming that he was revealing God's word.
So how did he reveal the Quran over 23 years? How?
He gave
Irrelevant.
sermons.
How? But where did he get information from?
Several sources.
Tell me.
Well, like, for example, I know, possibly his friends, possibly just talking. I mean, he was 40 years old, or no, maybe 50 years old when he started teaching the Quran. He's had a long time to gather information.
All right.
Okay?
How many times did he leave Mecca? How many times did he leave Mecca?
I don't know. But,
Twice.
Okay, fine.
How many times? How many times did he leave?
Let's go.
Oh, that's nonsense. How many times did he leave Mecca?
How the hell does he know how many times he left Mecca? Every single time he left Mecca documented. But the other thing is, at this point, we just need, because here's the thing, right? With this thing, the only thing that works against somebody steamrolling is to do the same thing. And again, James is slightly getting caught into this, right? especially if
He's
Hamza's
allowing it
doing the
now, yeah.
steamrolling and you're not used to it, then it's a case of like, again, having your mind, because all of it's just software and noise that's coming out of his mouth. So it's a case of like honing your brain to the question and ignoring the sophistry that's around it and doing the same thing. I don't care about any of these things, whether he lied, didn't lie, is 40. I just want to know, do we agree that if I show you an error in the Quran, then it cannot be from God? That's all I need. Do you agree with that claim or do you not? Okay, if you don't agree with it, then how do we falsify the Quran? Proof, or what's your evidence? Remember the very first thing we started with. What is it that you will accept? And you got to lay that down so you can refer back to it. He's never laid down in this conversation, so he can jump around it because he doesn't have to be. His feet don't have to be held to the fire at the very beginning. So he jumps around like this.
No, James.
You can make the point, but then if I let you make this point,
relax.
Go to an actual
I'm showing you now.
Quran.
I'm trying to show you now. First of all, we got no reason for him to lie, and now I'm going to show you it wasn't possible for him to lie.
It's impossible for Muhammad to lie.
Yeah, I'm going to show you.
Okay, James, stop there. This is a perfect time to put it back on him. You've made the claim that it's impossible to lie. Go ahead and present your evidence. I don't want you to ask me a single question. I want you to present the evidence clearly and concisely, how it's impossible for a fallible human being, unless you think he's infallible, again, make the argument for that he couldn't lie. Go ahead. This is the perfect opportunity to play it back here. And I don't know if James does that.
Does Muhammad have vocal cords?
No, okay.
Does he have a brain?
Do you know what your claim is?
Can he say something?
Shall I tell you what your claim is?
That he is clearly capable of
shall I tell you what your claim is? Shall I tell you what your claim is?
No, but you see what James...
Shall I tell you what your claim is?
Yeah.
James is now trying to refute it. Right, he's asking questions here, and the better way, in my view, is this was the perfect opportunity. Hamza did it by mistake, probably because he doesn't have to defend anything. This was the time for him to jump in, and then he started to argue. No, he's got vocal cords, he's got this, to try and show that that's possible for him. And of course, we agree with James. That tactic is not effective here.
Correct.
There was an opportunity for him to turn the table and say, I don't want you to say another word where I've got to answer. You tell me why it's impossible. What's the argument? That's a great phrase that I learned maybe a year ago or something from somebody who's pretty smart. They kept asking the question, what's the argument for that? Meaning, what's the reasons? As in some sort of form of an argument, even if it's not like a formal argument, premise and conclusion. Reason, conclusion, or premise, conclusion in a roundabout way. What's the argument for that?
Your claim...
Yeah, go ahead.
Muhammad somehow memorized all of the Christian scriptures.
No, he didn't. Never made that claim.
But he didn't actually memorize them that well. There are several variations between Christian scriptures.
This is another straw man.
He made errors trying to memorize the Christian scripture. And then you later on say, oh no, the Christian scripture was actually wrong, Muhammad was right.
James.
It's just funny.
James.
Okay, yeah, sure. So,
I think you're a little bit mental.
Okay,
honestly.
You can think that.
Right. So be a bit smarter and just listen. Why am I strange?
No, he's not going to learn anything
for one
from
thing,
you.
you're not letting me go to this clear error.
No, I know where you want to go. We'll go to your clear error, don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, you've been saying that for the last 50
5
minutes.
times, but we've never actually
No. Understand something, James. James.
First, let's talk about what his incentives were for lying.
What we're going to understand. No, you character assassinated Muhammad.
Yeah,
right?
I have evidence.
Right. No. So first we're establishing he couldn't. We don't know why he lied, according to you. Right? Because you're trying to convince. No. Do you not understand something, James? Do you not understand something? You're convincing me he lied. That's your whole point.
And I have good evidence.
Well, James,
which you don't want to listen to.
James, we're going to back your evidence out the park, mate. Don't worry about that.
Okay,
I wouldn't want to rush to it. I wouldn't want to rush to it.
If you're so confident, then let's do it.
Where do you get your understanding of the Quran from?
From Tafsir.
How do you understand the Quran?
By reading the Quran, then reading Tafsir.
Right. And
okay, so I'm gonna.
Shall I tell you how I understand the Quran before you go?
I don't think so. I think you just want to keep on delaying it.
Stop it
because you don't want to guess.
I'm not interested in how you understand it. All I want to know is, do you believe it's true? That's the only thing I care about. And now I'm going to present it to you. Do you understand Arabic? No, you don't. So you're in English translation. That's all I care about. Now I'm going to present it in English. There's no way for you to escape this with other translations, or the words could mean this or that. If it's a straightforward mathematical error, you're screwed. There'll be no back out of the park here. You'll be swinging strikes left, right, and center, to use your analogy.
And James, he made it clear. You're just trying to delay it. And he's very right.
Into a topic that you'll find difficult.
No, you know what? For that, I'm not going to go there. Right. So anyway, let me tell you what I claim.
Stop there.
You're proving my point.
Then the conversations, and at this point, you should have shouted loudly. This is where Bob is good. I'll get to Bob, right? This is where Bob he'll steamroll Hamza because he's louder. And at this point, you'll just shout, okay, he doesn't want to do it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like that approach normally. But with something like this, that's the approach to use, right? You shout it loudly from the park. You expose that they don't want to go there. Now, because Muslims will be nodding their heads. At this point, I'll be going, holy crap, my man is not prepared to answer this. I need to find somebody else here. My scholar, my lion of Speaker's Corner is doing everything to dodge dealing with this question. I want an answer so that I, as a Muslim, can deal with this. If some other atheist or Christian brings this up, I want to know how to deal with it. At the moment, I'm getting absolutely nothing. I'm getting a masterclass in how to dodge dealing with something. I want another scholar, please.
Yeah, but here's the problem, you see. Every time I try to explain why your point doesn't make any sense, you keep interrupting. Yeah? Can you not interrupt and let me speak?
Okay, but like...
Can you not interrupt and let me speak?
You told me several times that we'll go to the errors in the Quran.
Can you not interrupt and let me speak?
Okay, sure.
Hopefully the viewers will see this.
Yes.
This is a masterclass in dishonest irony of the highest order. Where's my irony cleaver? The constant interruptions from this side, lifting of the burden of proof. What have we seen? Fallacious thinking, right? Red herrings, straw men, the favorites there, dodging anything that you don't want to answer, shifting the burden of proof. And now at the point, hey, I'm not going to go there.
Yes.
Okay.
But don't interrupt me.
Okay.
All right, Hamza,
You're right.
thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Who's the one calling James?
Exactly.
Okay. So this is your claim. And I'll allow you to correct my claim.
It's very kind of you. Thank you for giving us
How
permission.
can you, he's saying it's your claim and you can correct my claim. It's not your claim. You are trying to understand somebody else's claim, which obviously you don't. So you are going to misrepresent it. And then the whole discussion is about the claim that somebody else hasn't even made.
In that. This is what I believe you're claiming. That Muhammad, peace and blessing upon him, somehow studied the Old and New Testament, the
Never
apocryphal
said
books,
that.
and the oral tradition of the Jews. And then memorized it all, rehashed it, and recited it all back over 23 years.
Never made that
And he
claim.
was a
Where are you
lecturer.
getting this from?
Bismillah.
Yeah,
That's your claim. You think that's possible?
yeah, that's possible because he
James.
Yeah, James allowed
That's
himself
not
to
your
be
claim.
No,
That's
it's
not
not.
what you are claiming. You are claiming, you just said it. He went around and he picked up some stories. This is why there's so many mistakes in the Quran. He just picked up some stuff left, right, and center. These are people, I mean, it's not Muhammad, it's people who were living in the region and they were fed stories by different people which were wrong. And this is why there are so many mistakes in the Quran.
could have had someone reading it out to him. He would have heard it.
When did the Arabic Old Testament arrive in the Arabian Peninsula?
I'm not sure.
When did
How is this
Arabic
relevant at
Old
all?
There was no Arabic. And the Old Testament has been around for 2,000 years at that stage. What are you talking about?
900 CE.
Okay.
Excuse me? What is he talking about?
300 years after the death of Muhammad.
Okay.
When did the New Testament in the Arabic language arrive in the Arabian Peninsula?
Oh, in the Arabic language. There was no Arabic language before then, you fool.
I don't know.
17th century.
Okay.
So
Okay,
there was
stop
no
there, stop.
Arabic
Let's just make clear why he's going off on this the straw man, red
Of
herring,
course, yeah. Of course we know.
to demonstrate that Muhammad couldn't possibly know of these things, which when you read the Quran, he didn't actually know much about it, but he couldn't have possibly known the Old and New Testament. So this must have been a miracle, because he couldn't have got this information except that God told him, except that the version in the Quran doesn't match the Bible. And to overcome that lapse, they have to claim that the Bible is corrupted, didn't quite get it right. So the Quran actually copied it correctly, but only the parts that are correct, and the rest where Muhammad didn't know anything about this, and neither did God apparently. Well, that part's incorrect.
Yeah. This is crazy. And the funny thing is, he is always the one who is trumpeting the oral tradition. So why would he insist that the book needs to be there in Arabic? What happened to the oral tradition? What happened to all the storytellers that went from campfire to campfire and gave all these stories to the people? It's the oral tradition. My goodness.
Yeah, but if he can demonstrate, right, that Christianity never came there or nobody ever told Muhammad anything, then that in his mind strengthens his case for saying that Muhammad could have known this except by some divine intervention. That's
After
what he's
this
trying to
cave.
drive to. I mean, he's got no evidence of that, but he can make these vacuous claims. But even if the books didn't come there, obviously people did, as you and I know. They were people moved around, etc. So he would have picked it up either from other people that were in Mecca itself or Medina, or he would have spoken to these people along the way. So
Rob, come on. Who after his first visit in the cave? Who was the second person after his wife he went to? A
Yeah.
Christian. So what are you trying to
and
tell
that
us
Christian
here?
told him it was Gabriel, right? Even though he didn't know it was Gabriel. And their entire religion is based on a man hearing voices in a cave that he didn't know about. He was on his own. What would happen if anybody did that today? We would send them for psychological evaluation. Obviously, in that
Wow.
case, their version of psychological evaluation is his wife patting him on the back and telling him, hey, it's okay, honey, to hear voices in your head or the cave. Let's take you to somebody who will tell you what they actually mean, though he wasn't there and he can only speculate. And then we'll build an entire religion on that. And other people
Hamza is
over
so
the years will believe this
pathetic.
nonsense.
But Hamza is so pathetic that he is making mistake after mistake after mistake, making Islam look ridiculous, and nobody stops him.
No, because the others don't know anything stops, and they will believe it because the tonality sounds like he knows what he's talking about. When you ask him for the evidence, it'll be scant or non-existence. And if he speaks to somebody like you, he'll be up the creek without a paddle or a life jacket. He'll be drowning again. But of course, the Muslims won't eat, because it's about substance for them, as we've realized, right? It's about sophistry and it's about the way somebody says something rather than the content of what they said. Because they're taught what to believe and not how to think.
But I still haven't heard my bet that he was going to talk about poor Muhammad. So it looks
He
like
did it
I
with
might have
Ray, didn't he? He hasn't done it here though.
So I was wrong.
Well, not yet. I mean, you got part 2 still, so it may still come up. But I think they eventually
in the
move off
area.
this. Yeah, they eventually.
So your claim is this: either he did that, what you've just said, or your claim is he had a secret teacher that he would visit, who had all this knowledge, and would teach him. Now, if that's your claim, produce any evidence that he was seen visiting a secret teacher.
No,
Yeah, you
in fact,
tell
you need
James
to be
what
the
his
one who-
claim is, and then ask him to defend something that he hasn't actually claimed. Yeah, you keep doing it and make more of them along the way to make it even harder for James to actually respond to things that he actually never said, and then pat yourself on the back for straw manning him like a world champion. You're probably up
I
there,
would laugh
gold
in his
medalist.
face at this stage.
to show that that's impossible.
No,
Yeah,
no,
really. As long as it's within the realm of
no.
possibility,
You're making a claim,
that's
mate.
fine.
You're making a claim, mate.
No, I know. I'm claiming
Do you remember what
it's
the?
possible.
Do you remember?
I need to-
Stop. Do you remember what the question was? He was to demonstrate that it was impossible for Muhammad to lie. Have we heard one thing remotely backing up that claim? Or have we seen a shifting of the burden? James again. All I want is the argument that it is impossible for Muhammad to lie. Now, if there's a Muslim here, this Abdul, who's even remotely paying attention, which is doubtful, have you, Abdul, heard anything remotely that for the argument that it is impossible for Muhammad to lie? Whether you accept that claim or not, have you heard anything remotely? Type something out if you can actually engage for a minute.
And claiming that, and saying that something is possible, like, is
Okay.
is quite a is a,
If a man-
is a modest claim
if a man-
in comparison to saying this definitely happens.
If a man is reciting something over 23 years, there should be evidence of him visiting the secret teacher.
But why would that?
Well, we'd expect that, wouldn't
It'd
we?
be secret, so how would you have evidence for that? I mean, holy crap.
How could he say it? We didn't have a teacher. Your
There would
claim
be
is either he
evidence of him
memorized
visiting
everything,
the secret teacher. If the teacher is secret, then there wouldn't be evidence of that. How would you know?
This guy,
Then he
guy
wouldn't-
is totally bonkers. Yeah.
or he's being taught it.
Yeah,
So to make that claim, you need to support it with evidence that he had a secret teacher.
but why would there necessarily be existing evidence that he had a secret teacher?
Because his enemies.
Not every single element of Muhammad's life is documented perfectly.
No, but we
There are
have-
many things that haven't been preserved about Muhammad's life, and so it could be that these things happened, but no one was there to write it down.
Did he have enemies?
Yeah.
Which of his enemies made this claim?
What?
He had enemies, yes? James,
Yes.
which enemy made this claim?
Why would they necessarily make this exact claim?
Because the people are following him think he's a messenger of God.
Yeah.
They want to show him he's not the messenger of God. So who made this claim you're making?
But why would they necessarily make that exact claim?
Because if they made that...
Maybe they didn't make this exact claim. The other people still called him a liar in different ways. Okay? So, this is still kind of skirting around the issue.
No.
I can show you that
There's no skirting around the issue.
From God.
There's no skirting around the issue.
The
You give me
irony
no
is
reason to show why
it's so
Muhammad would lie, first of all, and you've not shown me any... Listen,
Even if there's
I
no
didn't-
reason for him lying,
James.
if I can prove that this isn't from God,
James.
therefore we would have to conclude that Muhammad is lying for whatever reason. Do you agree with that?
James, listen.
Do you agree
James,
with that?
James.
Thank you. That is what you need to ask. Now, this is the guy on the left who says, don't interrupt me. How many times has he said the word James now in
Yep.
the last 30 seconds? It's incessant. And what James is doing, he's now catching his base again, and he is going where he should be going, using the arguments he should be using. And this guy on the left is just going, James. That's crazy.
It's
he's
like
a lunatic.
desperation. Yeah, it's desperation at this point. Yeah.
I'll say it again to you. You claim Muhammad lied. You haven't demonstrated a reason.
Just go
This
back
is
to
what
claim,
he's
keep
doing.
repeating
He is
it.
demonstrating it. He is just in the process of demonstrating it. Is if you give him 20 seconds to make his argument, and then you will understand it. But he doesn't allow this.
Yeah,
to lie.
but hang on there, stop. But again, the other thing is when you've got nothing else, just keep repeating your claim as if James has said nothing. Keep saying that you've never shown me this. You've never shown me this. I'm going to show you in the book. You've never shown me this, right? This is another tactic. When you've got nothing left, just keep repeating yourself. We see hijab do it. We see other apologists do it as well. So the idea here is for the viewing audience to notice these tactics, even if they're never going to speak to Muslims themselves. They'll notice it whether whoever it may be, right? And if they ever do come up against or speak to a Muslim or Christian or anybody else, for example, hopefully they'll start to recognize this, because it's one thing us talking about, it's another thing to recognize it live. And Stops and I have talked to so many Muslims that we start to pick up the pattern and we watch it, so we learn it, we want to pass it on. So I hope it's valuable. We're getting to the end here, so let's just finish it off.
And nor have you demonstrated the capacity for how he could do it.
No, I have. It's within the
No,
realm of
you're not presenting any evidence.
It's within the realm of possibility.
Everything is.
Yeah, and when we're talking
But
about
it just refuted your
What
claim,
does he
doesn't
want?
it?
What does
He just
want?
said everything is in the realm of possibility, and yet he made the claim that it was impossible for Muhammad to be wrong. So he's actually refuted himself. He said everything's possible.
What is he saying?
it's within the realm of possibility.
Everything is.
Yeah, and when
Everything is.
So it's what James is saying. Everything's in the realm of possibility, in the sense that Muhammad could have lied. There could have been some reason. There could have been something going on there. It's entirely possible. That's the only claim that James is making. And the fact that Hamza agreed with it means that he's refuted himself. He said it was impossible, and he was going to tell him why, which he never has, and he's actually refuted himself now.
we're talking about things that happened 1,400 years ago,
Right.
that's especially true because there aren't complete
Right.
records of things that happened.
So
back
you're
then.
saying it's okay.
So
So you're saying it's okay to make claims without proof and evidences.
no, it's okay to speculate that something is possible.
But it's nothing more than your subjective opinion.
I
mean, just like yours.
No, it's subjective opinion.
Okay, you can call it that, but it's sensible.
It's subjective opinion. Are you
Yours
saying
too.
subjective opinion is sensible?
What?
Are you saying subjective opinion is sensible?
Certain subjective opinions may or may not be sensible.
So accusing someone of lying, having no reason to accuse them of lying, is sensible.
No, but I do have reason to accuse him of lying. I haven't kind
Should we let him go with this?
We haven't pinned down what the incentive is. But I've shown there is a clear error that shows that this isn't from God, and they don't want to hear it. Okay. For the benefit of the audience, not necessarily.
Nice one.
Okay, cool.
Nice
you
one,
tell us.
James.
Thank
Put
you.
the pressure on.
Okay, so it's Surah 4, Surah and Nisa versus what are the ones that are about?
What's the mistake you're making?
Yeah, it's an inheritance.
So this is a discussion that's been had with Adnan Rashid and Mohammed Hijab multiple times with the same gentleman.
Oh, I see. This is this one-trick pony thing.
No, there are other ones. Let's go to an even better
Have you
one.
spoken to
Stop,
Adam?
stop there.
Let's talk about
Listen.
Okay, actually, let's run to the end, then we'll summarize. Never mind, stop scaring me.
James,
That's
have you spoken to Adnan Rashid about this matter?
Yes.
Have you spoken to Mohammed Hijab about this matter?
Yes.
Have they answered you?
Not well. No.
Beautiful answer. All right, let's stop it there. Stops. That was a beautiful answer. That was a great way for James to finish. They haven't remotely given a substantial response. If you go look, and in fact, I filmed so in case this thing's making a noise, I filmed the That was me pressing the button. Sorry. I filmed Adnan Rashid. I was there in the park when James was standing on the ladder. I think Stops was probably watching as well live at that stage.
Yes.
He never even like these guys look at it and they'll just dismiss it as well. He never even remotely took on the critique. And I mean, literally never remotely took it on. I challenge you to go watch the video, Adnan Rashid and James, and you'll see me and James. And I get involved to some degree as well because I see him doing it. So I can give him some backup there at that stage. That was kind of near the end before I moved away from London. And he didn't do anything. And Hijab didn't do anything in the park. And then he sat in his car. And we've critiqued that one where he tried to speak to the scholars and he gave one of these things where you have to reduce the portion sizes, which of course contradicts the Quran. He did the same thing, claiming, this thing has been done before, so poisoning the well fallacy. So we just got to get used to these apologists, used to the tactics, call it out over and over again. And any Muslims who are honestly listening should have a moment of pause and go, why am my brother using these tactics, right? If it's shown directly and honestly and openly that they're using these tactics, why are they doing that? Either because they're just very poor debaters or because they've got some reason to do this consciously. And I think here we've seen it as well, right? Oh, this thing, it's been dealt with already, as if somebody, but this is what I hear as well. It's been dealt with already. It's dealt with. I'm not going to look into it because somebody that I trust, that I have no clue, that I can't even check myself, has said something that's good enough for me. Well, if that's good enough for you, that's great. That's where your brain and your critical thinking stops. And that's what I say. Every Muslim lacks critical thinking at some level. You bring me the smartest one and I'll find it. And I'll expose it. They won't like it and I'll expose it. I mean, with Hamza, it's easy. I mean, we're going after low-hanging fruit here, but it'll be the same. This Abdul Hamid or whoever else, right, will easily expose where the critical thinking is. So I hope that's been useful. I mean, Stops will have the last word here. But at least we've shown you the text. There was a lot of them. I apologize I have to jump in so often, but there's so many fallacies. There's so many things that this Darren Hamza is doing incorrectly here and uncharitably, if not dishonestly, that to point it out. Hopefully you'll learn. And we'll be back for part 2 when Stops and I have got some time. Your final words, sir.
Well, the basic thing is that we need to learn to not make claims, to answer claims and to refute them, and we don't need to go into these discussions whether Muhammad lied or whatever. This is an expenditure that we don't have to make. We don't need to go there. All we need to do is just ask them, why is it that you think there is something special about anything? And that is all. I mean, I can refute all of Islam just using simple logical thinking in 4 minutes. And it is so incredibly easy. Now we have scholars saying the Quran is unreliable. Why are we not using this? Because I don't understand that the Muslims at the moment, they've got an earthquake with cracks in the foundation and they're pretending like nothing has happened. They're saying, yeah, but we have the Qira'at, we've known about this. Nobody is talking about the Qira'at. We're not talking about the Aruf. We are talking about different versions. And if somebody says to me, well, the Quran was intended to be brought down in 7 different dialects, well, then show me the words in the Quran with 7 different dialects. And then explain to me how you can reconcile this with the claim in the Quran that it is in clear and pure Arabic. It doesn't match. And this is why we need to bring these things to the people and ask them for explanations. And not was Muhammad a liar? Who the fuck cares? Go and ask the real important questions and not these side issues.
That's all they have, isn't it? So let's bring up these tangential, less important things so that we can skate around and obfuscate the really tough questions, because we don't have answers. And hey, we don't have answers. Instead of saying, do you know what, we don't know, we need to investigate this, we've got to come up with some tactic to keep, the gullible Muslims in line, because the moment we show any weakness or potential doubt, they will too, or they might, and we can't afford that. So we've got to use whatever dishonest or disingenuous tactics we can to avoid looking like there's any doubt for this.
Okay.
And on that note,
the funny thing is that Muslims themselves have never actually read the Quran. The other day I had somebody on Facebook who said, yeah, this is all about the Tawheed and everything. I said, okay, do you have the word Tawheed in the Quran? Yeah, it's there everywhere. I said, well, show me one sentence in the Quran which mentions Tawheed. There isn't.
No.
The next thing I said, you have the opposite. You have 5 gods being mentioned in the Quran. Why do you have 5 gods in the Quran if there's only one? No, there is only one God. I said, well, go and read the Quran. You have 5 gods mentioned right there. Why would a God be so jealous and constantly ask you, well, you're not allowed to go and pray to the other gods. It's only me that you're allowed to pray to if there are no other gods. It doesn't work. So, things like that, it's so easy to take apart.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you as always for coming on and spending over 2 hours
Fun,
here.
yeah.
And hopefully everybody's enjoyed this, or at least got something out of it, I hope. I always learn something. Again, is it some other tactics? Is it whatever it is? What can somebody say that I maybe haven't heard before? Whatever the case is, and what does the interlocutor say that I could, perhaps learn something from that as well. So, it was a good effort from James as well. I think, like I say, he was much newer in the park at that stage. I think he's got a lot better at it because, unfortunately, these guys are not straightforward charitable interlocutors. They're uncharitable, at least disingenuous, and they have a massive agenda. And the irony is, everything that they accuse their opponent of, they do in spades, and they're either completely aware of this, or they are aware of it and they just don't care. And so we've got to, evolve our way of dealing with these people to expose them for the obvious and straightforward. I mean, it's not even particularly nuanced. These are straightforward, obvious. And people can always accuse us of low-hanging fruit like Hamza, but he's out there with his certainty, with his 100,000 followers or whatever number he has, and is exposing the fallacious thinking here and the fact that he's making vacuous claims that he doesn't or couldn't show. And to whatever degree he can, Stop Sarai or anybody else can go and find the evidence to refute that as well. So there really isn't anything here. But on that note, I want to say thank you. It's getting late here as well. Thank you so much, Stops. Thanks for everybody joining in.
And thank you for the chat, and thank you for I watched some of the lively discussions. If you want to comment or critique or something, tell us what you like, what part you appreciated most, or what we can skip to make it quicker so that it doesn't get so long. If there's any kind of suggestions that you have, feel free to make them. And it's always good to have people watching and discussing these things. So thank you very much for that. See you next time.
And on that note, good night, and we'll see you for part 2, hopefully this week or at some point when Stops and I can. Thank you. Good night all.